WTF? Welcome to Funkatopia. I hope everybody is. I forgot to hold up the mug. Welcome to Funkatopia mug. WTF? I hope you guys are doing fantastically well. I am your host, Mr. Christopher. This is Jeff Page. Man, we haven't seen you guys in a long time. It's not really been a long time. It's just 2 weeks, right? So that's all. We just kind of did. We took last week off. And here we are, and it's going to be an amazing show. Hello, all you fine folks. Kimberly from West Fargo, North Dakota. You've been in here for a minute.
I mean, she came in real early, just hanging out.
Ready for the show. Sometimes these people come in like a half hour early, and it's like, wow, what is going on? Kyle, hello. Shirley, hello. Man,
George, what's happening? Christina from Minneapolis, hello. Yeah, didn't once we had somebody come in the morning and just seemed like they spent the night.
I don't know what was going on there, but that's okay. That's perfectly. And this is kind of what's neat about doing the show without a net, is because we actually get to hang out with you guys. If you hear stories that our guests are sharing or whatever, you can simply join in and whatnot. This is the pre-show, although we are right on top of the 8 o'clock hour. We got like 1 minute to go, and then we're actually going to go live, and we're going to bring in our special guest. So it's going to be, but we always, for those who don't typically watch the show, please subscribe. Please subscribe and like and follow and do all those fun things. And because that's how we kind of keep this. That's how we keep it in the air. Anyways.
Yeah. And keep doing what you're doing, guys. Keep posting where you're from. We want to hear from everybody, from PA to California to Detroit. We want to know where everybody is. So always let us know. And hello to all of you guys. And to those of you, Detroits. What's that?
Got a couple Detroits in the house. Jerome's from Detroit and Sherman's from Detroit. Sue, Southern California, man. Jeanette in Georgia. There you go. ATL in the house. Yeah, welcome to ATL and WTF. Lady cab drivers from Detroit also. Joni NYC, man. It's all right. Well, I'm sorry, Jeff. What were you going to say? What were you saying?
I don't even know. I think I was going to talk about the people on the app or on the radio all over the world here. Whoever's listening in, I don't know if you went live on the radio this time or not. So, who knows?
Yeah, we're going to have to go into the news. Uh-oh. I lost connection. Hold on.
Yeah, I think you're going to say we're going to go into the news section later, towards the end of the show, because, of course, we've got our wonderful, unbelievable guest here, and I'm not going to even say anything until you're ready to make the official announcement, but I will just say, y'all get ready to be funky tonight. That's all I'm saying. Just be ready.
It's going to be. I've been really super excited about this guest, just because she's a legend.
She really is.
So I mean, legends are hard to come by, and let's just go into it, shall we? Let's just do this, because we're very, very excited about this next guest. And my apologies right out of the gate, because I put the wrong date on last, and a lot of people thought that she was going to be on last week, and that was not her doing. That was my doing, but it's repaired. She's here. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we welcome a very, very special guest, someone who has graced the stage with Sly and the Family Stone, graced the stage with George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, and the Gap Band, and the Brides of Funkenstein, and on and on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring on the one, the only, the amazing, the incredible, the beautiful Dawn Silva.
What's up?
There you are, a funk queen. Oh my gosh. And might as well go ahead and get it out of the mix, because she does have a brand new book, and let me just say, this book is unbelievably thick. It is, oh my gosh.
It is Encyclopedia Britannica thick.
It is. Right. And on top of that, it is filled like front to back with just tons and tons of pictures tons of pictures from her career, and stories galore. And on top of that, if you order the book, you also get this amazing poster as well. You get the poster. You get, it's incredible.
I'm gonna keep a picture of it up right over here, so in case you want to look, and like, where's that book? And you can pretend you're flipping while we're talking. So
I got mine.
she got her.
I got mine.
And if anybody's interested in this book, I did set up a shortcut to the website to get it. You can go to funkatopia.com/brides. That's funkatopia.com/brides. And you will be able to, you'll be taken right to Dawn's website where you can order the book. She's actually making an appearance. We're going to talk about all those things. But let me just say, oh my gosh, you are here. How are you doing?
Hi, hello, Mr. Christopher. How are you? I don't know. Am I live yet?
You are. You're live, all the way live.
How you doing, Jeff? It's
I'm doing awesome.
To be here. Wonderful to be here.
Man, I tell you, your career is so storied, and I think the thing that kind of tickles me the most is that, sometimes people get this perception of, what their future is going to look like, or, God has a plan for all of us, and he does. And sometimes we connect with it, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we never take advantage of it or don't look in the right places. But everything just kind of fell into place for you, even in a kind of accidental way where, you weren't even looking specifically. It's like things were just kind of laid in your path, just kind of one after another, almost like dominoes. Do you feel like, how do you feel about just that perception of just how your career has just worked out?
At first I thought it was pretty much a coincidence how things were happening, but I start realizing as I got older that it was the divine order of things. It was meant to happen that way. Because it's the funk, actually, because the funk is so much more than just the funk. It's spiritual. It's from the heart. It's all everything is connected to it. Everything is so. The way I put it, like, funk is like the Rolls Royce of the music industry. So when you're saying that it all happened like one thing after the next, it's like, it wasn't. Like I said, I thought maybe it was just the way things happen, but like back to the word coincidence. But no, it wasn't. It was a divine order of things. This was sometimes we think that we are in control and we're planning. We're not. We're really not in control. God's in control of everything that we do. So
right.
And I really don't even know where to start. It's been so significant with everything that I've done over the last for most of my life, basically. But if we wanted to go back a bit, we could start with 1999, when I was out on the road with Bernie Worrell and the Woo Warriors. I decided to put to do a new CD, and it's this one right here, right? This is how it kind of started for me, and I called it all my funky friends. And we went into the studio with a guy named D. Levant, and we started putting all these tracks together. And so when I finished it, I knew that I had a monster funk track. So I started going to the labels. I went to Warner Brothers. I went to Priority. And both of them told me that funk was dead. There was no market for it anymore. So I had just did a show with Bernie Worrell at Woodstock, 1999 in Rome, New York. And 300,000 people were there. Would probably argue with both Priority and Warner Brothers that there was no longer a market for funk. 300,000 people up there throwing up P-Funk signs, right? So I decided to release the CD independently. So I'm just going back 24 years. That's how far I went back. And if you want to go back all the way to 1974 with me working with Sly Stone, or back to the 3rd grade when I first started writing a diary, and got this book. So I'm not sure where we're going to start with this, but no, it wasn't a coincidence, Mr. Christopher. I believe that it was all the divine order of things.
Sometimes, what I meant by, if I don't know that I used the word coincidence, I probably did, but
no, I did. I used the word coincidence.
Oh yeah. But what I mean is, more than anything, is that, the way that things kind of worked out for you, family wise, and just things that happen in life in general. Matter of fact, gonna hold your hand here a little bit, and I'll kind of guide you through, and then you can kind of fill in the blanks. And we'll start with, a little bit about your childhood and whatnot, and just kind of this is gonna be a little bit visual, so I'm gonna put up some photos and whatnot, and just kind of explain to me kind of what we're looking at, and also a little bit of the history of, well, really your childhood, really how it's all started and how you ended up where you were.
I see you have a passport picture of me and my mom and my brother when we were on our way to Germany. My father was in
Mhm.
the Air Force. Well, back in those days, they called it the Air Force Army. So we were going over there. My father was stationed over there, so we were there for 3 years in Ramstein, Germany. That's what that photo is right there.
Yeah. And I heard that you actually spoke German pretty well. Do you still speak German?
Uh, a little bit, my mom told me that we were speaking, me and my brother and my sister, we were speaking fluent German, but when we were over there, but as when we came back into the States, slowly started forgetting it. I remember maybe about 10, 15 words. That's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, while we were there, we were speaking fluent German.
I can relate to that because I lived the same life. We lived in Germany. My brother was born in Germany, and
Right.
yeah, so I get it. I get it.
Your
And it's
father
not
was in the Air Force as well?
Army.
In the Army Air Force. Okay.
I was totally different. I actually had a babysitter who was German, and my first word was German, where she was trying to put something in my mouth, and I went, "Nine!"
9.
Nix, nine, no. Yeah. Yeah, I do
We
remember
all have a
that.
German connection. There you go.
Absolutely.
But I think in your book you also kind of discussed a little bit about some of your family life and some the abusive situations that you were kind of in. And Jeff, I can't really speak for you, but I know that I'm the same way. That as far as my childhood was very my childhood was violent, and there was a lot of abuse and domestic abuse and things that were happening. And I really I think some of that thread of violence sometimes that happens where you're kind of artistry seems to blossom out of those situations. And I don't know if it's because music is escapism or whatever. Do you feel like music kind of really brought you through a lot of that?
I think it was keeping a diary at first. My mom and both my parents were all things historical. So, since we started at this when I was 7 years old, I remember my mom coming home from the library, just looking extremely distraught. And she said to me out of the blue, 300 million African bones line the ocean floor. She said from the Mediterranean to the Caribbean, from sea to shining sea.
Wow.
And I was 7. I didn't understand what she meant. And I remember being frightened because she's talking about human remains. How is it possible that 300 million African bones line the ocean floors? How did that possibly happen to? So shortly after that, I remember her telling me to go get a tablet, a real tablet, and a pencil. And I started writing down everything she said. Because you see, Mr. Christopher, back when I was a kid, we didn't have a television set. We had a radio, and the radio stayed on all day long. And if you could hear all genres of music on there, from classical to folk to bluegrass to jazz to soul. Well, it wasn't soul it wasn't soul R&B back then. It was soul music. Everything was on that radio station, all the way to big bands, country, all of it. So, and all we had was my mom's bedtime stories. So she told us a story every night. So that's how the first page of my book starts off with: whole indigenous nations melted away like snowballs in the sun. But not all perished. Some escaped. And my great-grandfather, his name was Red Stick. His family escaped the 1836 Indian Removal Act. They escaped by living in the caves in the Rocky Mountains along the North Carolina-Tennessee border. When Red Stick was 12 years old, he came down from the mountains because he came home to his cave one night and found out that his entire family was brutally murdered. Now, that's the first page of my book.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the stories that my mother told us. Those were the bedtime stories. So I started writing all of those down, and I started writing them I guess from 7 years old, from the time she told me about the African bones and growing up as a Black child in America. And I didn't realize at that time that she was preparing me for a world that was most often very unfair. So yeah, I gathered up all of that, and fast forward to maybe chapter 10 or 11 or something when I was 17. And I think maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't know if you had a script already with the book.
Oh, it's fine. No, go ahead.
But that's when I started writing it all down, and I wrote it in the first 10 chapters of my book. That was basically from what my mother told me. And then back to the abuse. My father was abused when he was a child. He had 19 uncles. And any one of them can beat you up or spank you or beat you. They used to get whippings that sometimes the whippings were so brutal the whippings actually didn't warrant the punishment. And I believed that when I was growing up as a child too. I was afraid of my father. I loved my father, I respected him, but I was deeply afraid of him. So I wrote that because I know that there's so many children that go through a great deal of abuse when they grow up, but then I wanted them to encourage them that they can actually find a way to get out of it. It took me a long time. I didn't get out of that abuse until I was almost in my 40s. So I believe that I wanted to make sure that if anybody else was growing up and into the abuse that you described as well, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I found that people who go through these kind of hardships or, things that happen to them, if they don't become it, because, sometimes you get swallowed up, but if you can get
Absolutely.
beyond that, you will become a lot stronger.
Absolutely.
And your perspective and what motivates you in life and how you move is different. And when you're walking, when you'll find your direction quicker because you think differently.
Absolutely.
So then you start moving in that direction, and that's going to be a big difference as long as you stay strong and work through it.
Absolutely, I believe that. Absolutely.
And there was a big story. I mean, the story there, obviously, that I was trying to come around to, because I was reading some of the comments here in the window here, was that a lot of people that are in these types of abusive relationships or come from abusive households, music is the saving grace for a lot of people. It really saves the lives of a lot of people. Music absolutely saved my life. I know it has with Jeff, and I can only assume it has with you also, Dawn. I mean, that's been your entire livelihood. I mean,
yeah,
Right.
I went to church and sang in my mother's
Sure.
choir. My father was Catholic, so we had to go to mass at 8:00 mass, and then come home, have breakfast, and then go to my mother's church. She's Methodist, right? Both of them pretty much conservative. Methodist is, I wish I could have went to more of a Pentecostal type of a church. Yeah, I remember riding down the street one day with my mom, and there was a Pentecostal church, and it looked like the church was coming off the hinges, right? I used to ask my mother, that's the church I wanted to go to, but I was in a Methodist church, and I sang in the choir, and I actually sang in my dad's choir too, in classical music. So
Nice.
at the time, it was just something that I was pretty much forced to do. But what saved me, Mr. Christopher, is that I kept a diary. I wrote everything down. And then at 17 years old, my father was also an alcoholic too. In fact, he was one of those kind of alcoholics that he was fun to be around when he was drunk. Is when he was sober is when he was scary. But I remember when he had one of those alcoholic weekends, and he wanted me to go with him to go see Sly and the Family Stone when I was 17. That's when I decided, after seeing that show, I was so mesmerized by Sly and the band and the music that was flowing from the stage into my very soul and back to the stage. And then at that very moment, that's when I decided, that's what I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a part of a famous group. That's when I found out. That's when the music saved. That's when the music saved me.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, right. I mean, what's amazing to me about that story is you being able to see, as a child. How old were you when you went to go see him?
I was 17.
17. So you go to see as a teenager, and the next thing you know, you are working with not next. Not next. And just so we're clear, there are some shots that I actually got that I took from the book.
Okay, no worries. Yeah.
So a lot of these photos that you're seeing are from the book to entice all of you fine folk to get these books, because there's a limited amount of copies that are available of this book. And again, funkatopia.com/brides, and it will take you right to this page. Or you can just go to dawnsilva.com, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
You know what, Mr. Christopher? There's a whole story about just how I got the pictures too. I could write a book on how I got the pictures.
I was going to ask. That's one of the questions on this for sure.
This particular picture was from a photographer that used to hang out at the record plant in Sausalito, California. He took a lot of pictures, and so he actually sent this one to me and several others. And so I kind of like licensed those from him. But all the other 298 pictures I actually got from a guy, an ex-Baltimore police officer who used to be a P-Funk fan that followed the group for many, many years. But that particular picture right there, and I remember looking I looked shy. I looked like I was, like it was also surreal. Like I didn't really believe I was there. And that's another story about a friend of mine who said that he was a percussionist and lived in Sacramento. And he said that Sly was needed a new studio, a new album. He was doing a solo album, and he needed some singers. So he asked me, did I want to go down there and meet him and go to the studio? And I said, absolutely. So as chance may have it, we drove down, and Sly's sister, Vieta, vet steward, she just happened to be hoarse that day, and she couldn't hit those top notes. So my friend Michael said to Sly, Dawn can hit those top notes. So Sly looked at me and said, yeah, so what you waiting on? And I said, me. I was scared of that. Boy, who me? He said, yeah, you. So I went up there and I sang those notes, those top notes, like my life depended on it. But of course I was singing in the concert choirs, and I was singing first soprano most of my life. So I was pretty confident about singing tops, right? So I went up there and I sang him, and then when the session was over, Sly looked at me and said, welcome to Sly and the Family Stone.
Nice.
Nice.
As simple as that.
Fact
that was one of the pictures where I hadn't been there no more than about a couple of weeks, I believe.
Wow. Yeah. All things happen for a reason. That's how it is.
Yes, Jeff. Everything happens for a reason. Everything.
So
go ahead, Jeff.
So after that initially happened, and then you find yourself in this new world. Now, music is, and this is where you want to be. When did you start, or did you stop looking back at things that you wrote, or did you often refer to your past? You know what I mean? Like the diary. How often did you go back and read any of that as you were moving through music?
To tell you the truth, what I had written previously, I didn't even put it away. My mom took all of those tablets and put them in boxes and saved them for me. I was on a new journey, so with a new tablet, so I was writing daily. I was writing everything down. I was writing down the street signs, the weather, the environment, the instruments, the everything that was new to me. I wrote it down. Everything daily. And I did that for many, many years. But the whole time I was with Sly, I wrote every day. I wrote down, like, Dear Diary. Today, Sly came into the studio and said we were going to sing a new song called Crossword Puzzle. Dear Diary. There's a song that Sly wrote on his album, and I just love it to death. The bass lines are as funky as heck. The song is called Organized. Bad as hell. Dear Diary. I went over to Sly's ranch, and I met Sly's brother, and I met Buddy Miles, and today I met Billy Preston. And Dear Diary, that's what I was doing.
Nice.
That's incredible. I mean, the foresight. Thank God that your mother actually got you into that practice, because, you know, I wish that I had done that. I mean, I know there's some people that I love and miss dearly that, you know, we used to have on the show, and they could, like, you could say, "Hey, where were you December 3rd of, 1986?" And go, "Oh, well, we were down this area." It was like, oh my God. So people that are like that are insane. For me, I say this all the time. I have a very, very etch-a-sketch mind. So like pretty much it's like, if I don't think it's too important, it's like it's gone. And it's
Yeah.
I wish that I had taken that time to dedicate to just putting those memories down. And you can tell that you had a diary, because this is voluminous. It's unfriggin' real, the size of this thing. I'm going to be promoting this book the whole entire broadcast, just so we're clear, because you guys really need to get this. It's fantastic. Not only is it full of just all these incredible photos that you got a hold of, but on top of that, literally it's just full of stories. You can see the level of verbiage that's on here. It's just story, just told in her own character and everything. I want to go back to the Sly and the Family Stone scenario where you kind of first joined in. If I remember correctly, because I've read, like, I literally have read word for word like half of this book already. So
already, oh wow, you just got it, right?
I just got it like a week and a half ago, but I've been trying to get through it. But I do remember you mentioning that when you started working with Sly, that, the other girls and the other people that were there was kind of a little bit of some animosity that was going there, but you had some good relationships with folks that really kind of stepped in and kind of helped that process along, like the one and only Cynthia Robinson.
Yes. Yeah.
So can you kind of tell a little bit about that story, about some of the treatment that you were getting in regards to, your coming into the fray?
I'm trying to figure out which story.
Oh, you can share all of them.
Right?
I remember when I first got there, after the initial session, and Sly called and said that they were doing the American Music Awards, right? And I went down again to the ranch up in Novato, California, and I knocked on the door, and Cynthia was the one that opened the door. And I mean, I was tongue tied, because Cynthia was like probably she's a pioneer, one of the most talented individuals, and she was my hero. I loved her deeply. She was just raw and rare. But the only time I had pretty much got anywhere close to her is when I saw her on stage first time. But now she's opening the door and standing in front of me, and I was tongue tied. So I remember asking her what songs we were going to be rehearsing for the show the next day, and she just looked at me and said, "You'll find out tomorrow."
Oh God!
And she walked up the stairs, and I didn't see her again till the next day. So of course I wrote about that in the book as well. I think she was a little standoffish with me at first, and because I didn't understand that environment, because there's so many people that are there that shouldn't be there, if you understand what that means.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm sure that when you're on that level, because the Sly and the Family Stone wasn't on an R&B level, they were on a level that I don't think very many Black groups have ever seen. And I was there at the pinnacle of their success. I was at the top of the mountain with them when they weren't playing the little Chitlin circuits. They were doing shows like with Don Kirshner's rock concert and the midnight,
Midnight Special?
Midnight Special with Wolfman Jack, and they were going out with Frank Zappa, and it was a rock market, a rock pop market. They were the top TV shows that were happening at that time, Tony Orlando and Dawn, and I mean, the list goes on and on and on in terms of, I didn't know, because like I said, I went straight. I didn't pay any dues. I went straight from rehearsing in my mom's garage to doing talent shows to doing a session with Sly Stone to being at the American Music Awards, and the OJs were sitting in front of me. Mick Jackson was to the left, Richard Pryor's to the right, Marvin Gaye's up on the stage, Al Green's over here, Ray Charles over there. I mean, it just like, that's, how do you? course,
actually, let's take 30 seconds to kind of bring ourselves back to that moment. Let's take just 30 seconds. I have 4 minutes of it. We're just gonna do 30 seconds. Let's just
okay.
take a look.
And now get ready for a little excitement because we're about to be treated to heavy sounds from Sly and the Family Stone.
Hey, 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 hey. When you're trying to flee from the big rich, tell you what they do, man. My mind of me. Find yourself some room. Let's all hang out. Here's what it's all about. Loose booty, jack up in the go. Shot it right with jack up in the go. Shot it right with jack up in the go.
That's a little taste for you.
Well, you know, that's pretty ironic that you would pick that little snippet.
Yeah, well, you know.
Did you read in the book about that particular show and that particular song?
Yeah, because I did mean to ask you about that because you said you were not told what the song was, but you said that you went on stage and you felt like you did really, really well. But then there were some people talking, I guess the other girls that were in the band that were kind of getting on you because you did something wrong.
It wasn't at
What
that time. There weren't any other girls in the band at that time except because Rose was gone. That the background singers didn't show up for that. That's when the group started actually splintering. Everybody was going in separate directions.
Right.
Whenever, you know, back to when Cynthia opened up the door at the ranch when I asked her what song we were going to be singing at this Dick Clark, American Music Awards, and she said, "You'll find out the next day." I didn't find out until 5 minutes before we got ready to go on the stage, and the song was "Loose Booty," and I didn't know the words to that song. I knew the song. I knew other songs, but that's one of the songs I did not know. I knew the hook. I know the loose booty. I know that, man. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. I knew that part. But I didn't know Rose's part. So Sly walked up to me. I mean, come on. The Dick Clark American Music Awards, where millions of people are going to see this show. 5 minutes before we go on, Sly walked up to me and said, "Rose didn't make the show, so you need to sing her parts." I was like, what parts? I don't know her. What are her parts? Sly, I don't know her parts. What am I going to sing? And he said, "You figure it out." And we went out. I wrote about that, and I remember like it was yesterday. So walked up on the stage and it started, and I just I'm looking at even now what you just played, like there was a part that Rose was supposed to sing and it just went right past. Nobody sang it because I was supposed to sing it, but I didn't know the words. I know that song now.
Right.
But I didn't know it then, and I felt really like I couldn't believe it. I told my mom, I told everybody in the world to watch me. I'm going to be on this show tonight, and I didn't even. They picked a song, just so happened to pick a song that I didn't know. The next song, of course, was Higher, and I knew Rose's parts on that one, and I did a great job. But when I came off the stage, it wasn't any females because none of the girls came. I remember getting ready to go into the dressing room, and I heard some of the band members talking about who was she and where'd she come from, and she didn't even know the words, and I didn't. So, I mean, that didn't help, I guess, because the band was already splintering. So with me coming in, I don't think it helped much, as a newcomer. But that's when I met Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, I think at that time was about 14 or 15 years old. And they were coming on after us, I believe. And I was standing outside of the dressing room because I was too embarrassed to go inside, after that performance. And Michael walked up to me and said, "You did a really good job. You were good." So that actually, if it wasn't for that little young Michael Jackson telling me that, I probably would have quit. The music industry would have been done for me. And then he asked me, could he meet Sly? So I said, yeah. So I took him down and knocked on Sly's door, and then the two of them met. So You're making me remember. You're making me remember stuff I haven't thought about in a long time. But that show, that show should have been the highlight of my life because it was the first one I did with those guys, but I wasn't prepared for it. And the lesson learned here is to that if you're going to work in a group with someone and someone hires you to work with them, you need to know their entire repertoire. You need to know all the songs they've ever wrote. So to make sure that if I ever got into a position like that once again, at least I would know the song, and I didn't.
I bet you were ready from then on, and
oh yeah,
changes everything.
Absolutely. Lesson learned. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he, I kind of did a lot of cross studying too. I actually got, I've had Sly's book, but I only read half of it, but I wanted to make sure that I kind of went through Sly's book to see how many times that he actually mentioned you in the book, which is actually a few times because you and Sly were actually, got really, really close. You never mentioned anything really. It was more like a brother-sister type of scenario. Though, as far as that, I never really saw anything about any kind of romantic involvement. He had enough of that craziness going on in the house. But what, how did you feel like this relationship? What do you feel like it was a brother and sister? Or, how did you feel about just?
It eventually developed into a brother-sister relationship. We were very, very close, and I don't know if you read that part too. That's in the story where he actually trusted me with with a lot of things.
His dog.
Well, yeah, I think he realized that I wasn't there to just be another groupie or a hanger on or just to take advantage of him, because there's a lot of people up there that really just took advantage of Sly. And Sly had a really incredible heart. He was a wonderful person. He'd give you his shirt off his back. He had a good heart. One day I went over there. He called me because he was going to Los Angeles and he wanted somebody to watch over his house. And so when I got there, he had self-medicated himself until he passed out. When I found him out there, and he had jewelry was scattered all over the house, and money and drugs and all over the house, just thousands and thousands of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars in jewelry scattered all over. No one was there but Sly. Big old beautiful home, passed out cold. So the percussionist Michael and he was there, and I called him and he showed up, and we picked Sly up and we put him in the bed, and I cleaned up the house and took all the drugs and threw them in the garbage, and flushed them down the toilet and put all of his money and his jewelry back into his safe. So when he woke up maybe 2 days later, in a kind of a panic mode a little bit, he looked around and saw that I hadn't taken a dime of his money. All of his money and all his jewelry was back in the safe. And from that point on, there was a bond between the two of us. There was. He trusted me with his home, his dog, his cars, his whatever. So we became very, very close friends. Very, very close friends. It didn't start off that way. It started off with me running from him. It was a little cat and mouse thing, right? Of course, the mouse was winning.
Right.
But yeah, it started off like that, and the band members used to sneak me out of the house and take me home. That went on for maybe about 6 months.
Mm-hmm. And I like that he actually, started to get that trust in you. And, there's great stories in here about you watching his dog when he was out of town, and that, and everybody was terrified of this dog named Gun. And, there's great stories about all that and how you actually got close to Gun and got Gun to actually trust you. And also, it's also sad stories too. I want you guys to pick up the book and read it, because I don't want to blow a lot of these stories out. I don't want you to tell the whole book. One of the more entertaining stories that I liked in the book was the story of Bubba versus Sly Jr. Because that story in itself, and I'll let you share that one. That story in itself really spoke to me a lot, because she dropped off.
Oh, she dropped off.
Here she comes. She's back on. Sorry, you're back. That story the reason why I like that story is because the fact that he kind of escalated you to a different level in his life, which was pretty, it's a pretty inspiring story about the trust that he had in you.
Well, I believe Sly talked about that in his book as well.
He did. He did.
In his book, the same story.
It was almost verbatim the way that you said it in your book too.
Yeah, I was really surprised that, because I have Sly's book and I read it as well, and I was honored that he said some really wonderful things about me, and the friendship has lasted. You're talking, my son is like 50 years old now, and my son, he was 4 years old, so you're talking 46 years ago.
Wow.
And then he still holds this love for my son and for myself, and so that touches my heart. But at the time I was going through separation with my husband, and Sly, like I said, he would give you the shirt off his back. He invited me to stay at his house and his ranch, and I took my son, and we lived in the guest room downstairs. But my son was really mesmerized and excited about the music room, and Sly had all these instruments, and Sly started teaching him how to play drums, and it was amazing because my son started picking up on it very fast. He was a natural, and Sly just loved that. He would, every morning they both go in there, and he would teach my son how to play the cymbals, or he would just show him something simple, and my son would do that all day long.
On the one.
Sly filled it to him, and Sly would poke his head in the music room, and he'd crack up laughing because he's doing that. He was doing it all day. Then the next day was teaching him how to play the bass drum. Boom, 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 boom. Play that, Bubba, because I called him Bubba. So Bubba would do that all day long, and he did that all week long, and then Sly would laugh, and next thing you know, he was starting to coordinate all the drum parts and putting it together. That went on for a couple of months. And then one night about 3 o'clock in the morning, everybody's asleep, Bubba goes up there and starts boom, boom, playing the drums, right? Everybody got upset, but not Sly. He went in there, woke up, went in there, and started showing him some other things to play on the drums. Now, Sly had a son that was the same age as Bubba. And I think maybe they used to call him Little Mook. And I think Little Mook was a little jealous. So my son, I wish he was here so he could tell you that story better than I can. So I did write it in the book, but my son, wrote the story the way my son told me, because he was in the room. He said that Little Mook came in there and snatched the drumsticks from him and broke them and then threw them at him. So my son Bubba took the sticks that he broke, and he jammed it up Little Mook's nose. And Little Mook's nose started bleeding, right? So Sly's wife wanted me and Bubba out of her house, like, because his nose was bleeding. And I heard somebody screaming. I'm in the kitchen cooking, and from the music room to the kitchen, that's a long way. So I ran down the hallway up the stairs, and I looked and saw Little Mook. His nose was bleeding. And then Sly stood over my son and said, Bubba, did you stick little Mook in his nose with that drumstick? And Bubba said, yeah. He said, why did you do that? He said, because he broke the sticks and threw them in my face. That's why. She said, so Sly said, so you broke them and stuck them up his nose? And Bubba said, yep, right in the nose. And so Sly said, well, that's what he gets. If he breaks them again, stick him in the nose again. And so he went over there and gave Bubba some more drumsticks and started showing him how to play the part. And that was the end of that little baby fight, right? But yeah, so I wrote it. That's exactly the way I wrote it. And Sly pretty much wrote it similar. But it was a fight between these 2 3-year-olds, or 4. They were 4 at the time, 2 4-year-olds. They were fighting over the drum set and the sticks.
But the interesting part about this is that his wife was living with you guys at the time, right?
At the time, she was.
And so she was the one that kind of was like, this is what Bubba
losing her mind.
In the book, she was freaking out and wanting Sly to kind of,
I would have been freaking out if it was reversed.
Of course.
And if it was my son and he stuck the drumsticks up my son's nose and it starts bleeding, you got to get out my house,
Right.
She wanted us gone. She did. Sly kind of saw it like 2 little young boys got in a fight, and that was the end of that. but she wanted us out. Well, I think she wanted us out anyway before that fight. But it's like the bottom line is,
Well, all she needed was a reason.
And the reason why I bring that up is because of the fact that I can only imagine that with Sly siding with you and Bubba in this particular arrangement, she had to feel some sort of way that he was putting you guys in front, regardless of whether or not who was in the right and who was in the wrong. You know, it's kind of like one of those scenarios. It's like, I'm your wife, you know, you stand up for me, your son, no matter what happens.
exactly.
You know, that's where you're supposed to be, but that's not what happened.
It's
And
not.
so can you imagine it created a couple different dynamics between you and her, and also with him and her also. I mean,
It did, and that's probably when I actually decided to leave after that, because it was her husband, it was her child, it was her home.
right.
And if I put myself in her position too, like how would I feel about that? Even though
Right.
Sly and we had a really close relationship. We were great friends. We still are to this day. But I just felt like it was not it wasn't appropriate for me to be there after that happened. I didn't. So we left. We left after that.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's kind of the right move, because
It is.
you're not going to get past that kind of tension.
It was the right thing to do. It was.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, and it wasn't just that, obviously, that would cause a lot of problems, because some of the stuff that you talk about in the book is just like mistresses coming in and out all the time. And he talked about it in his book, mistresses coming in and out of the house all the time. And he even had a bed that was shaped like a mouth or shaped like lips or something. It was just like, and correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes, if he felt like he wanted to share the experience, he would broadcast it over the intercom.
Well,
I mean,
well, he said that. I think he talked about that in his book as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine that you're in the kitchen cooking, and you know, the intercom. You're just having your little fun in your room, and then you can hear it. You know, that wasn't a good environment for any child to be in anyway. So, you know, he didn't do that when my son was there. He did that. He did that when the kids weren't there. He didn't do that when he didn't do that. But yeah.
Well, was the wife there? I mean, who was in the house that he felt this was appropriate to share via intercom?
Did I write about that in the book?
I remember, not to the detail, but I'm asking.
Yeah, maybe
You didn't get that far yet, huh?
I guess not.
You still have to read the book now. See, you
I'm
working
on it.
You try to
I'm
tell
working
too
on
much.
it.
You got to read the book.
Okay.
I just picture that, you know, sitting in the kitchen eating pancakes, and all of a sudden, oh yeah.
All
Oh
right.
yeah, and then you know what? And the intercom was right by the kitchen table too. So you know, you'd be sitting down. Yeah, it was rock and roll, baby. That's what it was, most definitely.
I appreciate that. I've been looking for an opportunity to do that on the
But
show.
see, but this book, my book, this is raw. This is
Yeah, it's raw.
they're calling this. I mean, the scholars, right, and with doctorates, are calling this the academic masterpiece. They call it the Funk Bible. I've had publicists and people from educators and say that this is not a autobiography; it's a movement. I've had so many people that actually take pictures with this book. At least 800 or 900 people have taken pictures with this book, and they sent reviews, selfies. And so I was getting so many, so I set up a fan page and a review page on my website, where people who took pictures with the book, and I put their pictures on there, hundreds, and reviews. I got reviews from Saigon City, Vietnam, Greece, Athens, Greece, Sierra Leone, Africa. I mean, they're coming from all over the world. They're taking pictures. There's a couple in Victoria, Australia, that were reading the book together, and they almost got a divorce because they were supposed to read the book every night before they went to bed together, and then the wife started cheating and would read the book when he went to work. So he got angry at her and took the book to work. Took the book with him to work, and so she basically wanted to buy another book from me, because she wanted to go ahead of him. And I said, I'm not going to be a part of that. So, but he got so mad. He got so mad at her because she was a couple of chapters ahead of him, right?
Man.
So then hid the book. But that wasn't the first story that I heard where people were getting angry because they were reading the book together and then they got mad because somebody was cheating. I mean, I have so many different the reviews and stories about this book is just mind-boggling. I never ever in my wildest imagination thought that this would happen with this book.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. We're definitely gonna this interview is far from over, folks. Don't worry, because we haven't gotten to the brides, we haven't gotten to George stuff yet. We're still talking about Sly. Dawn, as long as you're good, we got a lot more.
Well, you said 2 hours, but I know you probably need like for a book like this, you probably need like a week, you know. But I was thinking that people might get a little their attention span for
no, not on this show.
Yeah.
Funkatopians know that when we do interviews, we go deep and we they hang for it.
They do. They will stay.
So I still got to get a selfie from Mr. Christopher and from you, Jeff, as well. You guys got to send me a selfie I call it my funk wall. I haven't put the funk wall on the social networks yet because there's about maybe a couple of hundred that I haven't had time to put on the wall because I haven't had time to do it. And there's several reviews. I mean, I've gotten reviews from, there's a guy named Jim McFarlane, I believe his name. He's in London. He's a journalist, and he thought that when somebody mailed him a bunch of bricks when he first got the book. Then there was another guy that wrote a review, he said that he had to have, the book came to his office, and he scanned it for a bomb because it was so heavy. So, I mean, there's just...
It's like over 6 pounds. It is a heavy book. The part I like about this book is that, I mean, it's again, voluminous is the only word for it. And the thing I like about this is that you got turned down when you tried to get this book published, and you just said, screw it, I'm doing it on my own. And then all of a sudden everybody's story changed once they saw what it was going to end up being. That's the part that I love the best about that.
Right.
Well, yeah, I went to a couple of. Well, I had an agent at the time, and he went to quite a few publishing companies, and they said that they didn't do table books anymore, coffee table books, especially 7-pound coffee table books, hardback. You know, they just didn't have the monies to produce it, and that they didn't think anybody was going to buy it, and they were wrong. Actually, wrong.
Well, and that's another thing too is the size of this book. For you to self-publish something of this size is a big financial undertaking. What is I mean, normally if somebody is going to go out and they're going to self-publish a book, it's going to be maybe like that big. It's not going to be this big.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Christopher, I didn't do it by myself, and it didn't start off.
Oh, I know that. I'm aware.
It didn't start off being a coffee table book. It didn't. It's just like, to tell you the truth, the text in the book is the same size of a standard book. It is. The text in that book is only about maybe 250 pages or even 300 pages for text. That's a standard big book that they release now. What's why it's so big is the pictures.
Lots of them.
There's 300 and a little over 300 pictures in there. So, and then the quality of the paper too. The paper is a little thicker than the traditional books. The quality is soft in your hands, as you noticed. Even the paper, and that's because I wanted the pictures to jump out at you, and when they're on the type of matte flat paper, the pictures were dull. So as I started incorporating the pictures into the story, because there's a story, I don't know if you've gotten there. Do I wait till I get to P-Funk to tell this story, or should I tell it now?
Well, let's wait till we get to the P-Funk part of it.
Right.
Make sure we kind of do that little flow, and we're about to get there because I want to talk about and I do want to talk more about the publishers that are coming to you now that this book is out, and they're like, hey, okay, we will do it. I do want to talk about that, but we'll pause for that because I want to talk about November 13th, 1976, Baltimore, Maryland, the walkout, the night of the mutiny. I want to talk about that and how that kind of led into you getting work with George. So talk about what that night looked like where it's the walkout.
The date was 1977?
1976.
1976 for the mutiny on the mothership. That one, that chapter?
It's Sly and the Family Stone. When Sly's band just, I guess they all just left, and you guys ended up having to do something.
No, Sly's band didn't leave. The Houston, Texas, 1976, right? October 31st, that one?
No, that was November 13th, 1976.
November 1976 is when Sly actually left the tour. That's when when Sly and the Family Stone, Bootsy's Rubber Band, and Parliament Funkadelic were on tour. That particular section, is that what you're talking about?
I must have gotten some of these dates intertwined, but from what I thought that I had read was that there was some show where the band didn't show up, and it was just a few people that was on the stage.
That was Funkadelic. That was a mutiny on the mothership chapter. I mean, that's when
we're here. We're here. But let's talk. Let's before we do that though, let's talk about the transition from Sly and the Family Stone over to George Clinton and how that actually happened.
We were sandwiched in when we went out with Parliament Funkadelic and Bootsy's Rubber Band. Sly and the Family Stone was sandwiched in between these two monster groups, and I believe they were pretty much blowing us off the stage every night. They were. Funkadelic had a hit record, and Tear the Roof Off, I think, was out at that time, and went straight to the top of the charts. It blew up. It was huge. Everything was about turning his mother out. That's pretty much what it was back then. And so Parliament Funkadelic at that time was probably the biggest group in the world, and we were special guest act with Sly and the Family Stone. Even though Sly was holding his own, and we didn't have the original Family Stone band, Sly had a new how do I say this? We just had new musicians that were pretty much not the type of caliber musicians that he's used to playing with, and I'm talking about his brothers and his sisters that he grew up with. They weren't on the stage with him anymore. You know, Larry Graham, of course, is gone. Freddie's gone. Rose is gone. Vet's gone. The only one that stayed was Cynthia Robinson. Everybody else is gone. So we had a new band that played the music exactly like the record. They were great musicians. They played it exactly like the record. But the redundancy of it every single night, I think Sly got bored with it.
Right.
And he left. He left the tour. And it was pretty hard to pretty much compete with, you know, Maceo and Parker and Fred Wesley and you know, the Eddie Hazels and the Gary Scheiders and the Glenn Goins and the Bernies and the Ray Davises and the Fuzzies and the Michael Hamptons and the, you know, I could go on and on about how
a lot of
every single person in that organization was on that stage could have been solo artists on their own. They were phenomenal.
Right.
And we had to go on before them. And then you go back to Bootsy's Rubber Band too. Bootsy was blowing a mud hole on that stage, right?
Yeah.
Of course, he had who was playing with him? Gary Mudbone Cooper and Robert Peanut Johnson, Frankie Cash, Waddy, and and he had also the horn players that had just Fred and Macy also were coming straight from James Brown, and so was Bootsy, right? Those guys were phenomenal. So they were blowing the world up with the funk back then. Funk was like one of the biggest genres in the world at that time. Sly was still doing funk, but then his music was more, you know, laid back.
Right.
We still had our hit records and stuff that we did. I mean, Sly had an arsenal of hit records, but he couldn't compete with Parliament Funkadelic and with not using his own band. If he would have had his own musicians, then it would have been on, right? But he didn't.
Right.
So, and I think the redundancy of that newly created band, it just, they didn't stretch out. They didn't get loose. You know, the excitement of working with a lot of talented individuals is like you never know what they're going to play from night to night. The show is always different. But with Sly's new band, it was always the same, except for the singers now. Except for the singers, I think we were the only ones that were probably doing a lot of impromptu, you know, singing a lot of licks and singing a little differently. That was pretty much the excitement that Sly had was his background singers, and he called us the perfect blend. And that was Lynn Mabry and a lady named Virginia Ayers and myself. We had the perfect blend, and that's because we rehearsed the vocals for a solid year.
Yeah.
We didn't go out and do anything. We rehearsed pretty much 5 days a week, just the vocals, a year. So when we hit that stage, we were tight. We sounded like one chord. Nobody stuck out. That was a perfect vocal blend.
That's blends.
And so that's pretty much why George fell in love with that sound. So Sly left the tour, and then George invited us to come back and do some sessions with Eddie Hazel and the Horny Horns. And that's how we made the transition to go from Sly and Family Stone over to Parliament Funkadelic.
Now, I seem to remember the story. I think this is a pretty well-known story of Sly being on the tour, you know, with the mothership, and George Clinton came out of the ship naked. Well, not completely naked, but he was naked under his robe. And Sly happened to be improperly, or just not in a very good position, I guess, at the bottom of the stairs when he came down, and he got around, and he was just like, George, don't. I guess he really did. He really wasn't feeling that, I guess. So where's some of this animosity? I don't want to say animosity. I just think that Sly kind of realized maybe they weren't on the same page in that regard. I mean, what do you think was the ultimate? I'm out.
I think you have to ask Sly that question.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, I don't know. I for some reason I missed that. I never saw that. I didn't get to see it. I saw it on a video. I never seen George come down the spaceship with nothing on like that. So I don't know if that happened during the time that we were actually opening up for the P-Funk. I think that might have happened. It had to be because they had the spaceship. So I don't know on what particular show that happened, but I didn't get a chance to see that. That might have been after. No.
You are right. It did have the video that you saw it in was "Tear the Roof Off the Sucker," which you were in. Actually, they did a lot of interview pieces with you.
Yeah, that particular day, I don't know where I was, but I didn't see that happening. I didn't.
Yeah, and they actually showed the clip of him coming down and the robe kind of coming open, and it was like just really quick, but it was just like, okay, I can see where that might be like, oh god,
problem child. Yeah,
I saw the video, but I never saw that live. I missed that.
Yeah, I don't see it. I was yeah, I did want to ask you about George Clinton before we start digging a little bit more into Parliament Funkadelic, because in what year is this, the Mothership Connection, that tour?
76.
Yeah, so I was born in 68, and I hear a lot of these stories, you know, when you kind of go down these rabbit holes of people saying that really kind of George got the idea of what they were trying to do with Parliament Funkadelic from another band, New Birth. And I think you're close friends with some people inside of New Birth as well. I really, because I was so young, who really came first with this look and this vibe? Are you aware who actually came out first with this?
New Birth did, and it wasn't just New Birth. It was also LaBelle, Patty LaBelle, and everybody was kind of doing that space age Afro futuristic stuff back then. I think George just capitalized off of it by actually making it more animated, but
more characters.
Yeah, with the characters. If you really want to give the credit to the whole extraterrestrial theme that came from New Birth, and New Birth used to come on stage from these eggs. The New Birth, they were black.
I remember
eggs.
the album. My
Remember
parents.
the black eggs, and the black eggs they would put. I don't remember if they came down from the ceiling or they pushed them on stage, but the eggs would crack open, and these extraterrestrials would come out. So that was pretty much the theme. At the time that New Birth was doing the extraterrestrial, I believe that Funkadelic was George was going out on stage in a coffin, and he actually and I did my research on that, and I talked to James Baker, used to be the MD and the leader of Parliament Funkadelic, and New Birth, and another guy named Chris Lander, who was doing the sound for New Birth, along his brother Austin Lander used to play trumpet, I believe, or saxophone with the group as well. So I know all of them very well, and they all told me the same stories. But I do remember during that time is that George Parliament Funkadelic, and I don't even know if it was Parliament Funkadelic, might have been Funkadelic, was a special guest. They opened up. They were the opening act for LaBelle was a special guest. They came on second, and then New Birth was a headliner. And then when George came out on stage, they pushed a coffin on stage, and George would jump out the coffin naked, right? So,
of course.
So, but New Birth was the one that was doing the extraterrestrials and the whole thing first. They were technically they were.
And when you signed on with George, I do remember one of the story that they actually presented you with a contract. This is I'm kind of going a little bit out of the timeline here, but James Baker actually from New Birth actually saw that contract or something along those lines and was like,
But they had this rivalry thing going back and forth. Unbeknownst to me, I'm a newbie in the organization. I'm a newbie in the business. I didn't know the business. I didn't know the business at all then. I didn't know it. But I don't know the little, I don't want to say bad blood, but they did have a rivalry between, they believe that Parliament Funkadelic blew up with their concept, right? So that's basically what James Baker said to me. We were very, very close friends. I met James Baker when I was with Sly, right? Back when New Birth was playing at this club called The Total Experience on Crenshaw in Los Angeles. They played this club 7 days. They had 14 shows. It was the first time any black band ever has sold out a solid week with 2 shows per night, 14 shows. I think Rufus and Shaka Khan might have done that as well at this club called The Total Experience. But that's where I met James Baker as at that club. And we became really, really, really close friends as well. And he did tell me that the mothership theme started with New Birth. He did say that. So he felt like they pretty much ran off with the theme and blew up and got really big. They did. And they got huge with it. So there was a little bit of this animosity. But when I got a contract from the organization, the funk organization, I let Baker look at it, and he basically told me not to sign it. He did. He warned me. He said, he told me not to sign it. But I was caught up, I was a slave to the rhythm of the music. I was caught up like everybody else. I was more of a fan than anything else. I was so honored to be there with Parliament Funkadelic, and I'm still honored that I am a part of it. I will always be a part of it.
Right.
Once a Funkadelic, always a Funkadelic, right? No matter good, bad, the good and the bad, and the good, the bad, and everything in between. I'm always going to be a Funkadelic, right? But at that particular time, he basically told me not to sign it, and I did. I signed it, and our relationship pretty much ended from that point on between James Baker and myself.
Now, what was? I mean, obviously, the contracts, the stories of the contracts that George Clinton would do, and where obviously he didn't write the contracts, but whoever he was working with really screwed a lot of people over. I hate to say it like that, but there's a lot of people who would say it a lot more viciously than that. When did you realize after signing that contract? When did you realize? I guess, was it monetarily when you got your first check where you're like, God, okay, I see what was wrong now? when did you?
No, I'm still waiting on my first check. Never got my first check yet.
It'll come.
It'll come. Because the first song that you did, if I remember correctly, was Up for the Downstroke. Is one of the first songs that you actually perform with them, which is that's a pretty good kick in the door. Hello, I'm here.
Hello.
Yeah, but we weren't, Lynn and I, we weren't signed to the funk organization at that time when we did that session. We weren't. Right. That was like our introduction, and George brought us in, and probably one of the most exhilarating times in the studio I ever had. We were hooked. We were hook, line, and sinker. We were hooked. I was a hardcore, down to earth Funkadelic at that time, you know. So that song pretty much was the first one that we did, and then what really sealed it for both of us is when we did Eddie Hazel's Game Dames and Guitar Things next. That's the one. That's the one that pulled me in.
Mm-hmm.
So it did.
Yeah, that's a great one. And was it this session, or some of the sessions are running together, but I remember you mentioning that a session was over and you got paid $100.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. It was like $100, and
it was $100. They paid all of us. All of us got paid $100. And I thought it was for per diem at the time, because you're coming from Sly Stone, who we were doing a union sessions. We were getting double and triple scale. Yep. I made more money with singing with Sly for those 4 years in the studio, which I'm still getting Social Security checks from that today, from all the money I made off of singing with Sly in those 4 years.
Wow.
But a lot of it was, I made a lot of money with Sly. I did. So if it wasn't for Sly Stone, I probably wouldn't have a Social Security check. So I'm thankful for that. But we were getting double, triple scale with CBS. I remember I was getting a check from CBS every single day, every day for years. And then they would go anywhere from low ball, $300, $400 to $500 to $1,600 to $2,000. And, you know, back in 1970s, 74, 75, 76, my rent was only $165 a month.
Right.
So one check from Sly would pay my rent. One session, 2-hour session would pay my rent for the month with Sly. So when we got over there to the funk organization, and when the session was over, I got $100. I was like, oh, that's nice. I thought he was buying us some lunch, right? But I'm realizing that, and I found out from the engineer that's what everybody got paid. And and I can't beat up on anybody but myself, because I had a choice to deal with it or don't, take it or not, you know?
Right.
But the music, you know, I probably would have done it for nothing, because I love the music so much. So anyway, but yeah, it was $100 per session. Everybody got $100. Everybody.
I mean, I'm thinking about everything that you've been on. You're saying you're still waiting for your first check. I mean,
there's royalty check. Yeah, the Brides of Funkenstein were signed to Atlantic Records, and I know that they got advances for those records. They did. Right. George actually, let me backtrack. He did give us an advance. Lynn and I got we split $10,000. We did. I got 5. She got 5. And then Lynn probably doesn't know this until she'll know now. But I because Baker was so mad at me for taking the money. It was New Year's Eve, and my birthday is January 2nd. So I remember going to a car lot, and I saw this little red Fiat convertible, and it was the car. I think the car cost about $6,000 or $7,000 back then. So I remember calling up George and told him that I saw a car that I wanted and how much it cost. And he wired me the money the next day.
Wow.
Then I felt pretty good.
Right.
So yeah, he bought me a car. He did.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that the least that he could do,
Well,
considering.
yeah. So after that, it was on, right. So
Right.
I didn't feel so bad about signing that contract, but when I realized, and you asked me a question earlier, when I realized that it was pretty much over for me is when the band got left in Detroit at a hotel called the Crystal House in Detroit, Michigan, and it was snowing. I remember it was a like a blizzard. I remember it was almost a whiteout. It was very cold, and the organization didn't pay the hotel bill, so they kicked us all out.
Oh
And
wow.
we had no money. I didn't have a dime in my. I didn't have no money. And stranded, no way to get home, and I was getting ready to get kicked out. And it wasn't a hotel; it was a motel, a Crystal House motel. It was one of those really sleazebag motels. And so I called a friend of mine named Henry Mayers, which is in the book. Dear friend of mine named Henry Mayers. He was a marketing and promotions back in those days. He did a lot of he pushed a lot of groups to the top of the charts, right? He did. So I called him, and he came and picked me up. And
Wow.
that was maybe a little over 4 years ago, and we've been friends ever since. That's who saved my behind, because I was in trouble. That's when I knew that it was over for me.
I knew that, and obviously in the Tear the Roof Off the Sucker documentary that was on what I saw, there was a lot of payment going on in drugs. Him actually giving artists coke or whatever instead of actually giving them money. And did that ever? I mean, obviously you don't really you didn't partake in that particular part of it. I mean, there was some activity in the book, but did he ever approach you and try to pay you with drugs, or did that ever occur? Or did he even try to even cross that bridge with you?
What, cocaine?
Or to pay you in that?
No, George never did.
To you?
To me, no. Personally, no. George never did. Not to me personally.
Did you see him with other people?
Did I see him do it with other people?
Yeah.
Now see, you're just you gotta get folks gotta read the book, right?
Yeah, I know.
Folks gotta read the book. You just let me think. There was a road manager when I first got in my first week in the group. The first week. Back in the old days, they used to go and knock out on your door when it was payday. They would knock on your door. They would do the cosmic slot. But remember that knock? They would knock on your door, cosmic slot, knock, and then you knew that it was your payday, and they would slip the envelope underneath the door in the hotel. That was my introduction to P-Funk. My first payday.
Yes,
and I opened up my envelope, and when I looked inside of it, it was $100 short, and there was a gram of cocaine in that envelope.
Yep, I remember
that was my initiation into the group. When my first official payday was a gram of cocaine in there. And back in those days, that was real cocaine, because dope ain't dope no more. I don't know what they do. Right. I don't know what they're doing in this day and age, but dope was real dope back then. That was that Peruvian flake, mother pearl, sparkly. It's all pink. You put a little bit on your tongue, and your whole face would freeze. Real drug, right? But no, I didn't like cocaine, or let's just say cocaine didn't like me. I was allergic to it. I didn't like cocaine. I'm already hyper, as you can see. I'm trying to slow myself down even today. I talk too fast. I do everything fast. And so back then I was really hyper. So I tried cocaine. I just didn't like the way it made me feel. It made me paranoid. So I didn't like cocaine.
Yeah,
but
same.
I remember telling the road manager that, I didn't, that was pretty, I was offended by that. Why would you take $100 out of my salary and then give me and replace it with cocaine? I didn't like that. I said, no, you need to bring me my money and take this cocaine back. So I believe they did that with everyone. And either they would take the cocaine or not. I chose not to.
Yeah. And she's right. It is in the book. She actually went down and chased down the guy who was handing out the envelopes. I do remember.
Hold
down
up.
the hallway and told me, you need to give me my money. And then I told him he could take the cocaine back, and he goes, "No, you can have that." I said, "I don't want this cocaine. I want my money." So, and I'm glad, I'm blessed that cocaine that cocaine didn't like me. I didn't like cocaine. I'm blessed. I'm one of the blessed ones. I'm one of the lucky ones.
So, you had that little bit of animosity that happened when you joined Sly and the Family Stone on stage that first time. What was it like joining Parliament Funkadelic on stage for that first time? What was the vibe? I know.
That,
You know
what you're talking. That was my drug.
Right.
Parliament Funkadelic was my drug. That's what I was hooked on it.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first love. The music, all of it. I've never experienced anything like it then and even now. Nothing. I mean, I didn't know if I was going to a funk concert or a gospel revival, because you had Glenn Goins, who had the most churchified voice in the world, and he took thousands and hundreds of thousands of people to church every night, and I was one of them. And not just Glenn Goins, but Gary Scheider, who also was like the Pentecostal, church.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling, remember I told you earlier in the conversation that driving down the street and saw this Pentecostal church where it looked like it was the whole foundation was coming up off the ground.
Yep.
That's what it was with Parliament Funkadelic. And it was, Gary and Glenn and oh gosh, Mudbone Cooper and all of them phenomenal singers that were in that group, and musicians. I can't even describe what it was. It was just it was so spiritual, and it just captured me and didn't let go for many years, and I'm still hooked on it to this day. And so yeah, I was addicted to the music. That was my drug.
Wow.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's just some phenomenal stories in there. And if you've never, for those who are maybe a little bit younger, if you've never got an opportunity to see Parliament Funkadelic live, especially in the 70s, which I was too young. You have to find the videos, because it is just, it's unreal. The spectacle and the colors and just everything that they did was just so over the top and just very, very theatrical. So it wasn't a concert with fantastic music. There was characters and there was drama to it, and there was just so much. It was so much of a thread of a storyline that just kind of just brought you along and just took you along for a ride. It was, even watching it on video, you're like, God dang, they just went and they went hard. And that's,
yeah, I mean, once you've had the best, it's hard to sell for anything less than that.
Right, exactly.
Then you get so frustrated because I'm still searching to recapture it in any kind of way that I can, and I've gotten close. Actually, just recently had a rehearsal last week with some brand new musicians, because they don't have a show coming up October 12th. Let's get that in there before we run out of time. October 12th at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco. So yeah, that one I picked up some Bay Area musicians that used to be half of Larry Graham's band is who I have right now, right?
Wow.
From Graham Central Station. So
Yes.
these musicians played it with anyone from Santana to where do I start? To Buddy Miles, to
Headhunters,
Sly Stein and Family Stone, of course, to Graham Central Station, Larry. Who else? I mean, they've been with everything. My guitar player, his name is Terry Scott. He started with Eddie Hazel in the games, dames, and guitar things. He went on Eddie's first tour, and he also worked with I think Larry Graham, and then he also worked with the Gap Band. So these musicians are just. The rehearsal that we had was it was wow, and just a micro media, just inches away from what P-Funk used to be. It was close.
Nice.
And it made me feel really special. So I'm feeling really good about going back out on the road again and taking this band.
Yeah, it's October 12th. It's going to be at the
Yeah.
Great American Music Hall. This is actually the flyer for it. Yep. That's
and you got Jeanette Washington. Jeanette Washington Perkins is one of the first females to sing her along with Debbie Wright. Those were the first two females to go on tour with Parliament Funkadelic. They got there before I was there. So Jeanette's been singing with me, like she's the other half of the Brides of Funkenstein right now. And she's been with me for the last 24 years.
wow.
So we pick and choose. I pick and choose certain shows that we're going to do, you know. And now that we put this new band together, we're all excited about this gig coming up in October. And I'm picking up dates as we speak. As soon as they started advertising that show, we picked up Atlantic City, New Jersey, which is going to be sometime in the early spring with the National R&B Society with Vanessa Jordan. And that's another story because I don't want to forget her. Vanessa Jordan actually bought that book. Let me show you this book. She got, I gifted her the R&B Society. I gave them a gift because she went on the internet and wished me a happy birthday. So I gave her a book, and then she thanked me for the book on an online interview, and I sold about 50 books because she did that.
Wow.
So I want to give her a shout out and thank her for doing that. And I could be on here talking about so many people like Charlotte Morgan. Let me get Charlotte Morgan, who's an educator and a journalist. Charlotte Morgan took my book over to a library, the Langston Hughes Library in Cleveland, Ohio, and then went over to the last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe. And now that book is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame archives in Cleveland, Ohio. It's also in Yonkers. It's in UC Irvine. It's in the libraries. I got proclamations and where people have got Dewey Decibel number. That book, I have to say this too before we run out of time. I actually put down that this book is basically the history of funk rock. And we all know that does not exist in the music as far as the genre. There is no funk rock, not in the literary and not in the musical aspect either. But because I listed those words, funk rock under the category in this book, I got a proclamation in the city of Folsom, California, and they actually put my book in the library next to Bruce Springsteen, Dolly Parton, who else? I think Justin Timberlake's got a new book out. All these, they put it in the rock department. They put it on the shelf with the rockers next to Rolling Stone.
Wow. And we've been saying it, and I will say it again. Go to funkatopia.com/brides and get your book. There's no excuse. Or you can go to donsilva.com and buy the book.
And you can get this book. So
exactly. And I'm not just saying it. I just ordered mine while we're in this interview. So you guys do the same thing.
So thank you.
Get the book.
And there's only 1,500 copies of this book. Has that changed? Have you increased that number? Are we capped out? Or
ordered some more, but then I don't want to jinx myself because there's some distribution companies that are, like you said earlier in the interview, that are throwing in their hat now in the ring. So there's one company that wants to take my inventory, and I've gotten really personal with it now because I have my own publishing company. I did the same thing with my album where I dropped my CD. I started my own record label, right, 24 years ago, and I sold 250,000 copies of that out of my kitchen.
wow.
I sold 250,000 I have my own record company. I only had one artist, and it was me. I called it Silva Sounds Music, right? And I got licensed deal all over Europe, and that's a whole other story. So I did the same thing with the book with the publishing company, right? I did my own publishing company.
Amazing. It's fantastic.
I can't wait till I get my box of bricks.
Well, you're going
All
to get your box of bricks, but I just want to thank those who put it in. It's in Yonkers Library in Toronto, Canada.
That's
You
awesome.
got Don Norfleet, who's an educator and has a doctorate over at UC Irvine, that invited us to do lectures, because I'm doing lectures now. It's in her library. It's wait a minute, I put a list here so I wouldn't forget, because I know that my brain is going. UC Irvine, Folsom, California. My book is in now. Oh gosh, where is it? Yeah, the Langston Hughes Library. I mean,
Wow.
so much of them. Anyway, it just goes on and on and on. But
There are so many people here giving you shout outs and stuff, that people that obviously know. Like Henry Myers here said, Dawn and I have been friends for 47 years, not just 40.
Who is that?
Henry Myers.
Henry Mayers is the one that
Mayers.
drove. Henry Mayers. Henry Mayers is the one that saved me from the Crystal House during the blizzard in Detroit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you
That's
just took,
Henry. Yeah, he drove. He got in his car, and he drove down here from Detroit, and he stayed at my house for 6 months, and he helped me launch that publishing company. And him and I were driving to the post office every day with truckloads of books, and they weigh a ton, so you imagine if you're taking 30, 40, 50 of those books a day to the post office. And I went to the post office so much over the last 17 months. In fact, I got a pile over there of books to go right now. 17 months that I got a personal relationship with the people that work at the post office, and
they offer you a job.
They all bought the book because they were like, "What are you mailing? What is this?" I said, "It's a book."
It's a book.
It's a big book.
And so they all got books too. So it's just, whew,
and it also comes in a, even the box is, even the box.
Come on now.
Yeah,
Come on.
You gotta have a box to protect it. You want to know why? Because it's so heavy, right? And it's so heavy. And then when you go to the mail and they're throwing it, you don't want it to split. I do have to say this too about I started my book off with, I am one of 7 funk queens born out of the Parliament Funkadelic Empire, right? And this is just my story. So they have stories coming out as well. But actually, I said 7, but there's probably about 13. I want to say this to Bernie Worrell's wife, Judy Worrell, because the fans do not know that I'm not the queen of funk. I am a funk queen. The queen of funk is Malia Franklin. And she has a story that's going to be coming out next year that is phenomenal. She started singing with Parliament Funkadelic when she was 15 years old. Her and Debbie Wright. They sing on all the earlier stuff, right? So there's so many females in the Parliament Funkadelic Empire that are our queens. They played instruments. You got Valerie Drayton, who played a trumpet. You have Star Colors, who played bass. You have a violinist named Lily Hayden. You have Linda Scheider, who was Gary Scheider's wife, she wrote songs that are on the Parliament Funkadelic. What am I trying to say? Anyway, she's written songs for Parliament Funkadelic. So did Jeanette Washington Perkins. She's got her writer's credit on there too. What is really surprising for me, you guys, is that I found out maybe like a year ago that Bernie Worrell's wife, Judy Worrell, she is a co-writer on a song, one of Parliament Funkadelic's most popular songs, where funk bands all across the United States and beyond play that song in their shows. In fact, we played in our show as well. I don't know too many funk bands that don't play Red Hot Mama.
Right.
Judy Worrell, for those soldiers out there that do not know, is the one that wrote the lyrics to Red Hot Mama.
Wow.
Unfortunately, her name was left off the liner notes, for credits, and I believe on the copyrights too. She never got the credit for it. So that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book. And if I would have knew that story a year ago, I probably would have wrote that in my book as well, because I want the soldiers to know that these women, these powerful women, had to be strong enough to stand with the soldiers. We had to be to stand with Bernie Worrells. We had to be. We had to be as strong enough to stand next to Eddie Hazel on the stage. We had to be. We were then, and we still are. So I want to say shout out to Judy Worrell, because she should have had a co-writing credit on one of the baddest P-Funk songs ever written, called Red Hot Mama. And she is the one that wrote basically the lyrics to that song.
Yeah,
does that mean?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Does that mean we should lead up to and have a show, Queens of Funk or Funk Queens show?
Well, we have in the past.
Yes, but
we have in the past.
I'm sure when they have a book that's coming out called The Mothership Connected. And it's not just us that happened. You know, we were born out of the empire. We started it. Parliament and the Brides of Funkenstein started it. But you got the rappers and the singers and the dancers and the co-writers and the musicians that are still carrying on with it right now to this day. I just want to be pretty much give us I want our flowers now. I don't want them to come after we're gone.
Right.
I want this recognition for these women, powerful women who sang on all those hit records, right along and stood next to those funk soldiers. Right. We need to get the recognition now.
That sounds like a great idea. Don, you and I will connect, and we're gonna get that compilation of names together, and we'll do a bomb show. We'll do it. We'll make it happen. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
There's no reason why we can't.
This is actually a shot of Bernie Worrell that I took. I actually got a lot of great shots of him. This is a fantastic shot that I took down in Live Oak, Florida, and I got that was my first opportunity to actually meet Judy. And Judy and I were talking, and Bernie was supposed to come on the show, and we just kind of kept going back and forth trying to get scheduling worked out, and then unfortunately he had passed away, so he never got to come on the show, and I was devastated because I was like, but yeah, it's yeah. You know,
one of the greatest musicians ever.
Well, we got to talk about Brides of Funkenstein before you go, obviously. But I do want to see what your opinion is about somebody that I also didn't come from the Parliament Funkadelic. Well, everybody kind of has ties. It's kind of like a degrees of separation. But what is your opinion on the one and only Betty?
Betty Davis. She's just raw.
Guys, nobody liked this woman.
No, absolutely not. She was way before her time, you know. She was, if we were before our time, what do you imagine about her, right? I think she's absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely. I love her.
She was just
phenomenal.
This is a good point that I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. Is it Damola? We'll go with Damola. It's a great idea. All the Queens of People deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame too. And my question is, when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, what was your opinion about the fact that you guys weren't even really represented there? And maybe I haven't gotten to that part of the book yet.
No, you haven't, you know, so I think I forgot what chapter that was, but I was disappointed. You know, we actually contributed, you know, you're talking about the Brides of Funkenstein. Actually there were 4. There was actually 5 if you're gonna count the bridesmaids. It was the Brides of Funkenstein and the bridesmaids, right? But I was disappointed because we contributed to that music, and I often wonder if they would have wiped all of those female vocals off their records, what would be left, you know? It would still be bad. It would still be great, but we just gave it the thrust and the sweeping at the same time, right? So for us not to be left out, And I was more disappointed for Malia, Debbie, and Jeanette than I was anyone else, even more so for myself, because they were there many years before we got there, before I got there, especially for Malia and Debbie. They I remember Malia told me this herself, how she used to rush home from school and empty out her piggy bank, and catch the bus and go down to the studio and sing on all of the earlier Funkadelic songs, way back. I don't know which ones, but I know her son probably knows. But all they got was a sandwich and a smile, and they didn't even get credited on the album for the first few years, right? But they had been there forever. And I like I said, the females just gave it the sweetening that it needed. It did. It gave it the layers of sweetening, the thrust, the power, the energy. It was soft and hard at the same time, right? And for us to be left out, that was very disappointing. And I really think that it can still be fixed. It's not undoable. I believe that the women of Parliament Funkadelic should be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I really do. We also should get our Lifetime Grammy Award too, because we were left out of that as well.
Yeah,
right. We didn't even. There was not. It was just nothing, and that just very disappointed. Very.
Yeah,
very
it's and rightfully so that you would feel that way, because the sound, the vibe, the party atmosphere, that it just kind of coalesced.
And I didn't mention two other singers, Sheila Horn,
Lynn Mabry.
Sheila Horn. I mentioned Lynn Mabry earlier. Sheila Horn. There was Bab Stewart, Jeanette Magruder, who's AKA Satori Shakur. Sheila Horn, her voice, which is such a phenomenal voice, is the reason pretty much why we kind of ventured over into the rock market, and that's why we're doing a rock venue, because the Great American Music Hall is a Grateful Dead crowd. That's a rock venue. See, the Brides of Funkenstein tapped into several markets. We can go and do rock one night and then R&B the next, right? So, we have two different sets. Our music, we have a rock set and we got an R&B set. We're getting ready to do the rock and roll set on October 12th. When we go to Atlantic City, New Jersey, we're doing an R&B set because that's an R&B market. But then thanks to Sheila Horn with her rock delivery, and Henry Mayers, who took us into a new wave market. Henry Mayers did that single-handedly. He did that with the first show that was in 1980 at a club called Bookies. It was over on 6th and McNichols or something like that. I never forget that show ever. That was our first rock show, and we tapped into the rock market. And then a song came out that George Clinton produced, a phenomenal song. One of the best songs I think he ever did for us was Never Buy Texas from a Cowboy. And fast forward to 2001, because that song was cut in 1979 or something. But in 2001, because of Sheila Horn, Rolling Stone magazine named Never Buy Texas from a Cowboy the top 50 coolest album of all times, coming in at number 26. And we've been doing rock shows ever since. So, I can talk about each one of these females individually about what they brought to the table. So, again, I am just but one. And then with me, I writing my songs, the songs that I've had for many, many years, like a song that I wrote called On the One. I wrote that song 40 years ago. But when it dropped in Paris, France, it was number one. It dropped in Paris, France in 2001. Number one. Then I took another song off my album, which is a remake of I'd Rather Be With You, Bootsy Collins, and that was number 2 in Germany. And then I took another song off of my album, which was called The Red Light District. And that song was number 2 in Holland. And then I took another song off my album, and it was blew up. Well, which one was that? It was Break Me Off That Old School Funk, blew up in Belgium. So I had all of these license deals all over the place. You got the vinyl album.
Yep, there it is, right there.
And
then one last thing I got to say is I just recently last year got a streaming deal, uh, marketing and streaming deal with a company called Cutcraft. Cutcraft, and it's Joseph Gonzalez and Katrina. Katrina is an affiliate. Uh, Joseph is in Los Angeles and Katrina is in London. And they are actually dropping this album. Which one? That one. Where is it? They're dropping this on September 20th, the whole album, on all of the streaming apps. All of them.
Sweet.
Nice.
September 20th. This is 24 years old. This one. And I just got a new license deal with it. Dropping September 20th on Cutcraft, right?
It's about time. And if you guys want to pick up, if you guys want to actually get a hold of this, the best place to go is Discogs. It's Discogs is short for discography, but it's Disco GS is probably the easy way. But it's discogs.com, and there are vinyl collectors all over the world. And that album is available, some in the United States. Most of it will, like Don says, most of it will come overseas. But you can get them reasonably priced, and it is unreal. It is so friggin' funky. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I will say,
and it's 4 years old.
It's so
timeless. Funk, in time, on time, timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Always. And I say, any chance you get, you want to buy the album. You really want to support, you buy the album. But if you are a streamer, just know, Don Silva, her stuff, if you're a Spotify person, you can go to Spotify, look her up. You'll see those 4 that she mentioned. Actually, Do You Remember Them Live and Red Light District, I'd Rather Be With You. All of those are there. But if you subscribe to her there, maybe there's going to be some pre-saves when the album comes out from her streaming deal. It's pre-saves. That leads to faster responses, and then she gets on lists and things like that. So you'll blow it up on the streaming side. It's always best to buy the album, but if you're gonna, be a streamer, subscribe to her so you know when that stuff's coming out. Get out there and play that record, play that music, because it's good stuff. I went and listened to it, and before the show, I was listening again while I was getting ready, and I was just like, damn.
It's really, really good. A phenomenal album.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Man. Well, let's get probably should try to get back on track before we run out of time, because I do want to ask about transition. And we've been doing a lot of publicity, but the transition from into the Brides of Funkenstein. The story behind this picture is actually really, really funny. Because you guys were not prepped for it at all. But it was just like, what's happening here? But kind of tell people who don't really know the story how you kind of were approached regarding, I'm putting Brides of Funkenstein together as far as George's vision for this.
I think we're gonna have to talk to George about it. I'm not really sure when he decided he wanted to bring us on board. I'm thinking that is when we were on stage singing with Sly, and he heard the blend. And he wanted all 3 girls. At the time, he was 3, and one of the girls Virginia decided that she didn't want to, go. She went into another direction. She's a jazz artist right now. So, but Lynn and I went ourselves, and again with the Horny Horns album, and then Eddie Hazel, and then I remember we were in the studio, and George said he was putting a new female group together. He just said it out of the blue. I'm putting a female group together. I said, that's nice, George. And he says, you know who the girls are? And I was like, no. And he says, it's you and Lynn. And I just felt I got all emotional because I really didn't want to be in a group. I was happy singing background for Parliament Funkadelic. And I probably would have sang background for Parliament Funkadelic for the rest of my life, and I would have been happy about it if I never did anything else but that. And I was comfortable. I was safe. That was my safety net, singing background for Parliament Funkadelic. But George wanted to push us out the nets, and that's what I felt like. He was kicking us out. And he's like, no, you guys can still sing with us, but I'm putting a group for you. And then doubling all the way back to getting the contracts and that whole thing. But we did sign the contracts, and we did do our first album. And I have to say that the first single was Disco to Go, which was Bootsy's track, right? And I was so excited about that track, and I think I wrote about it in my book. I did. I said that it was so funky, and it was so incredibly funky that I thought that Bootsy was going to change his mind and take it back. So I just tried to be all cool, like, you know, I didn't want him to know just how ecstatic I was that he would actually give us that track. I don't know why he didn't keep that track for himself, but then I was so honored and humbled that he gave that to us. And I knew that it was going to be an instant smash as soon as it hit the airwave, and it was. And so everybody, there's a horn line smash as soon as it hit the airwave, and it was. Yeah. So that's a great picture. That's Lynn, myself, and Bootsy sitting on the floor. I think we were at, I don't know if that was United Sounds or if that was Hollywood Sounds in Los Angeles. I'm not sure. It might be Detroit, but that's when we were recording Disco to Go. And the look on my face says it all. So, yeah, that was the Bride's biggest hit record.
Yeah, that was that whole that track, and just everything the Brides had released was unbelievable. Lenny's got a funny point where he says Rick James' background singers were trying to sound like Brides.
Everybody was trying to sound like the Brides. You know, you got George Duke, and he did a good job. Everybody and their mother was trying to sound like us. You know, that wall of vocal sound, that wall of sound. No one was doing that until we started doing it. No one. Yeah, that George had a great concept back then. It was great. It worked.
Yeah, I mean, just the ground that you guys covered, and because you guys had such a iconic sound that it was just like that works, and it's like everybody just tried to continually replicate it. It was
well, they didn't try, they actually did. You know, they actually did take it and run with it, and they got bigger with it than we did. They blew up bigger than we did. And then that's a whole nother story as to why, you know. So I wrote about that. I don't think you got that far in the book yet.
Yeah.
or maybe you did.
No, there's like pieces that, you know, sometimes there's like pieces that I've read, but then you go deeper into stories, like a little bit further into the book. But I am curious as to what your thoughts are regarding Parlette versus Brides. Like, what is your, it's kind of, it's obviously a very, very difficult comparison, but like, how did you feel about it? What, you know?
Parlette actually was the strongest of the female groups. They were the baddest, I thought. They were the LaBelle of the new LaBelle. They were hardcore rock and unprecedented. Just Malia Franklin was the lead singer, and she had this voice that actually sheer voice that would actually shatter glass. You heard those singers. You heard about singers that could actually shatter glass with these notes. Malia was one of those. Phenomenal voice. All three of them were incredible singers. Debbie was real bluesy. Jeanette was rock and gospel, and with the combination of them, and then together, when they hit that stage live, no one could follow them. They burnt that stage up. Wow. What I didn't particularly like so much about the music that Parlette was getting, because the songs were not mature enough for their voices. They were a little too bubblegumish for me. They were a little too disco. They were too cute for them. You know, Pleasure Princess was a cute song. That was her single. That was cute. It was cute, but it didn't really showcase their true talents. And that's one of the complaints I had with the organization, is that they didn't quite know how to market these females. And if they did, they didn't. But I thought that Parlette should have been huge. They had, even with the songs that they did have, which were good, if they were produced where they were actually featured more with their voices, and not trying to make everybody sound the same, like everybody's singing along. It was a little bit too disco for me, and I mean, I'm not a disco. I don't like electronic or digital music. I don't. It's just it loses something. It hasn't got any feeling when it's all technical like that, right? But they really kind of dropped the ball with Parlette. They did, big time. They should be household names. Those three women were absolutely phenomenal. You know, phenomenal. I mean, Shirley Hayden could have been the Anita Baker before Anita came out. Malia, of course, she was a cross between Aretha Franklin and Janis Joplin. And Jeanette, she was all pure gospel, pure. So it's just an unfortunate that they didn't get their, they didn't capitalize off the talents that those ladies had. And they did the same thing with the brides too, actually. We weren't suppressed as much as they were. They suppressed Parlette. They did. They really did. And I'm sure that when their books come out next year, when their stories and their interviews, and when you have them on their shows, they can basically tell you more. I was just kind of outside looking in, and I watched what was happening with them. And then, of course, they were playing the two groups against each other, so we became enemies. They were actually doing more for the brides right in front of them. And, you know, you don't do that. They did. They actually did a lot more for the brides Funkstein than they did for Parlette.
Man, so, I think both of you are underappreciated. There's no reason why the releases from either band shouldn't have blown up and been, I mean.
Well, when I'm looking back, I was thinking earlier today, Mr. Christopher, that if they would have been allowed, if we had been allowed to grow and nurture these phenomenal females, phenomenal groups, not only household names and just how we would innovate and encourage so many other females, we should have had at least between the two groups at least maybe 10 #1 hit records, at least between the two, at least 10, at least.
Yeah, I can't. Easily. I agree.
Yeah, easily. I mean,
100%.
That's the minimal amount. That was just with the songs that they released, because a lot of those songs that they did do on the group, the tracks are excellent. It's just like what they sprinkled on top of it did not feature the women to their fullest capacity.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, 100%.
Ask you about Disco to Go. This was something I was reading because obviously as I was kind of looking at your discography, there was a couple things in this. Oh, she dropped off just for a second. I'll wait till she comes back on before I finish this question. She dropped off. But last time she dropped off, she came right back on.
Back. Wow.
So, but
it was weird last time because I've never seen anyone drop off and come back because she's not even in the green room. So.
Yeah, it's all good. So obviously she will be back. She won't cut out like that. So if you guys do have some questions that you would like to ask her when she comes back on, go ahead and get them in, because we're going to be kind of wrapping this up a little bit here as soon as she comes back. But I'm thoroughly enjoying the interview, obviously. And I mean, it's just, there's so many details that I think, because of the fact that a huge majority of she's back on. Let's say, all right.
I don't know what happened.
There you are. So
right.
There was a couple things that I'll finish that thought later. There's a couple things that I saw on there that interested me, and I don't know what they are. First off, they said that you were part of a band called Put Your Body Where Your Mouth Is Choir. What is that? You don't know? Discogs has you, and it has some of the bands that you were affiliated with, and it was like, what is AKA Put Your Body Where Your Mouth Is Choir?
Yeah, I saw
contributors.
I don't know who that is. I never did anything of the sort like that.
Okay.
I don't know who that is. Yeah.
Also, on Disco to Go, it lists lyrics written by Sue Ann Carwell. Is that true?
No, Sue Ann didn't write the lyrics to Disco to Go. That was George Clinton wrote that. Sue Ann Carwell, I did this album. I did a remake of Disco to Go on this album, and Sue Ann actually did some new lyrics. Her and Tommy Jenkins from Cameo, the two of those, and Sue Ann sang on Disco to Go, but she added some new lyrics. We changed the lyrics, or we added some lyrics to the remake. But yeah, she wrote those. Yeah. But she didn't write,
our audience love any type of Prince tie-ins, and
yeah,
Sue
she didn't do the original. Now, Sue Ann Carwell is another unsung phenomenal singer as well.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, she actually sang on "Rather Be With You" with us as well. Myself, Jeanette, and there was another singer on there named Jackie Simley, who came out of the Gladys camp, and we were singing together for about 30 years. And so Jackie and I sang together for almost 30 years in the bands, for a lot of the bands that we do with the brides now. But those were the singers that were on "I'd Rather Be With You" and "Disco to Go." Sue Ann Carwell, Jeanette Washington, myself, and Jackie Simley.
When you dropped off, I asked the audience if they had any questions that they wanted to ask you, to go ahead and put them in before we let you go. And this is a question that I did actually have on the list. I think you may have started. Yes. Vincent mentioned, can you touch on your time with the Gap Band? And I actually had a screen capture here of all the albums that you've made an appearance on regarding the Gap Band. And you know what I think it's funny about this? This is another one of these. Obviously, 4 is the one that has most of these tracks on it. But you're talking about, you were in that period of time. I don't know some of your involvement with some of these songs, but Early in the Morning, Outstanding, You Dropped the Bomb on Me, Party Train. I mean, your involvement at the height of what they were doing was pretty phenomenal. So can you speak a little bit about the time with the Gap Band and actually how you got in with them?
Well, I'm on 3 of these albums that you're showing. I didn't do the one with the Gap Band. What's the number? Is that 3 maybe? Is that Gap Band 3?
That's 4, 5, 6, and 7 is what's up there right now.
Yeah, I didn't do 4. I did 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
Actually, on Outstanding, everybody thinks that's my voice on there, but that's Sheila Horn. Sheila Horn sang on Outstanding with the Gap Band. And because of some similarities with the bride's voices and then that cut, it's understandable why they thought that was me singing on them. But that's Sheila. I came in right after Outstanding and sang on the other 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, Party Train, At the Beach. That was a big record for them. So I finally got my platinum and gold records from them. Last year I finally got them.
Last year? That took a while.
I got maybe 9 albums, platinum and gold albums, over the last year and a half.
Wow.
I just had a lawyer who worked for RIAA, and he put my name in there, and he asked me what songs I sang on, and found out that I never got my albums, and so I started getting them. I still got 2 I have to get, and one is 3. 2 with Ice Cube. I did the Boys in the Hood soundtrack with him. I was signed to Ice Cube's production company for a couple of years, which you haven't gotten that far in the book yet. and I worked with Coolio and Ice Cube and Yo-Yo and Dr. Dre. Actually, I'm actually on one of Snoop's songs. Actually, what's the name of the song? "Go Away" by a rapper named Cocaine. And I work with Dale the Funky Homo Sapien. And
oh, wow.
I worked with so many rappers until that's another story, another time to be on your show. But when I left the Gap Band, that's where I went. I went out with the rappers for a couple of years, and I learned a whole nother derivative, a whole nother way of music with those guys. So, and then from there, I went to Brazil, South America, and they called me Carla Silva over there. It's like the Forrest Gump of the funk, right? So I went out with the Platters for 14 years. Can you believe that?
Wow.
So that's a whole nother story. Then I came back, and then after the Platters, and I dropped my CD. So we've come full circle. But yeah, the title for the Funk Queen was so befitting for that journey. And Sly Stone is the one that was his what is it saying,
byline.
He said that tagline. I didn't say it. He said the Underground Railroad to the Funk. That Sly said that. I did.
Wow.
And I thought I'd put it on my album, and it worked. That's what it is. The Underground Railroad to the Funk, exactly what it is.
Yeah, and rightfully so, and it is. It's one hell of a journey for sure.
Yeah,
This kind of ties in. Let's go ahead and get Stevie's questions. This is from Ronald. Says, Don, when is your new album coming out? And you guys did not get an opportunity to hear a little clip. But
I tried to play a little clip of it, and I know I was going to get in trouble with Jeanette and some of my production manager who told me not to, because right before COVID, right,
it was off. It was off air.
I know, but right before COVID, I was in the studio and recording some new stuff in 2019, I think it was, and we had a bunch of new stuff, and then we were using a digital 48-track analog studio in Los Angeles over on Sunset Boulevard, and the studio just went under, and so we didn't. The songs and everything got pushed to the back burners, but we picked it back up again to answer his question. We were in the studio I was in the studio for the first time in 4 years to finish the music that I started before COVID with Blackbird McKnight. And yes, Blackbird McKnight is playing on some new stuff.
From Headhunters?
Along with Rusty Allen. Allen, he took Graham's place in the Sly and the Family Stone. I got a guy named Jimmy McKinney who started with Buddy Miles, I guess, and then he went on a New Birth as well, and he's with the Family Stone. I got a guy named Terry Scott again with Terry Scott with the Gap Band, blah blah, and then all those musicians. Oh, Billy Johnson, who started off with Santana, and he was with Graham Central Station for 10 years. And so all of those guys were in the studio. Am I forgetting someone? Rusty, Billy, Jimmy, Blackbird, Gail Modrow. Jesus, I can't forget Gail Modrow. Gail Modrow and I started together with Sly Stone, right? And Sly actually taught Gail how to play rhythm guitar. She was one of Sly's protege. And then when Sly wasn't teaching her, Freddie was. Sly and Freddie both taught her how to play. She has such an unorthodox rhythm style that I've never heard anybody ever do, ever. Powerful female. She's in my band as well. So Gail and I been together for the last 20-something years. And she also went from Sly, which I went to Parliament Funkadelic, and she went to Graham Central Station. And then from Graham Central Station, she started working with Prince. So these are these phenomenal veteran musicians that we all put together last week to go and do this show coming up. And then you can't forget Mudbone Cooper, who he's the one that co-wrote I'd Rather Be With You, and a lot of the hit songs. He's written several hit records, and the lead singer for Bootsy's Rubber Band. He's also with P-Funk All-Stars and Parliament Funkadelic. And he is coming aboard to work with us. He'll be at the show in San Francisco. So, Mr. Christopher, where do you live? You're in Georgia, right?
We're in Atlanta.
You're in Atlanta. Well, hey, they got a nonstop flight from Atlanta to San Francisco. You guys should come.
They do, and that's actually I'll be back in town. I'm actually out of town for a couple weeks next month, but I'll be back in town October 12th.
You are too, because I'm thinking that this is probably the last show in California for this year. I don't know. I was thinking about retiring in 2026. Like 2025 is probably my last year of touring. So I really want to turn it over to someone. I really want to turn it over to another funkster, and we're looking for some new folks to turn it over to, so they can carry on with it with the dream to keep funk in mainstream America. Because they have been systematically eliminating it. They don't recognize funk as a genre. Mr. Christopher, I do want to say this before we leave. They have a category for hip hop and rap at all of these award shows, right?
Right.
There's a category for them, but there's no category for funk. And if it wasn't for the funk, there wouldn't be no rap market.
Correct.
They refuse to acknowledge funk as a genre. And that's been my mission in life. So when everybody asks me, why did you call it the Funk Queen? Because I have the audacity to put funk on the cover of my book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always kind of relegated to either R&B, depending on how it vibes. Like if it vibes more like of an Erykah Badu level of funk, it's kind of relegated to R&B, or it's. I mean, there
But
used
Mr. Christopher, it's all of those things.
right? Yeah, absolutely.
It's
It's
all
worse
of it. It's all of it. The funk. I mean, just because it's funky does not mean it's the funk.
Yeah,
There
and
is
what people. Oh, go ahead.
different ingredients. It's different. It's different. Everybody, like George said, everybody funking and don't know how.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're missing that because anyone who is a fan of music may not even realize it. But those of you guys who are listening who are artists, when you set up your music to be streamed, when you're putting categories in, it's hard to find funk, a funk rock specifically.
There
Those
is
kind
no
of things.
there is no funk rock.
It's not even listed. You don't have You don't even have that option. You have to do it as a tag. I know. I'm a musician. I
now
create music. Same thing. You can't actually do it.
Absolutely.
So she's 100%. It needs to be its own thing. It needs to be
But
there.
you know what? It's now it is. At
Right.
least in the literary market, there is a history of funk rock. So
Yep.
now there is. So what you call it? It's game changer.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's still plenty of artists out there that are consistently putting out music. That's the reason why Funkatopia existed. Consistently putting out music that fits into those categories. You still got all these guys that are out here doing it now. The Lettuces and the new Master Sounds, and Garrett Scheider,
Garrett, yeah.
her son. I mean, it's like there's still people that are still pumping this stuff out on a regular that deserve to be, recognized and have a category and have a home to call themselves. And your new album, there's got to be a home. There's got to be a place for this stuff to land, and that's one of the four.
But it's just time to bring that genre back to mainstream because
Sure.
the funk is basically the funk is not just R&B. It's not.
Right.
It's not.
We got a couple more questions here, and then we'll call it here. This one is from, and then we're gonna do one more talk about the book and the tour, and then call it. But this is George Hudson wants to know: did you sing on "Disco Lady" by Johnny Taylor with P-Funk?
No,
No,
I didn't. That Disco Lady. Remember, we go back to Henry Mayers again. That Johnny Taylor was one of the guys that he actually promoted back in the day. So no, I didn't sing on that one. No.
And this other one is by E-Groove of Funkalistic. Who would you like to work with that's funky now? And it's a little promo here. Check out Terry Dexter because she does house music and sounds like funk and soul. I'll have to check that out.
Who would I like to work with? Who's funky? Boots Riley. You ever heard of Boots Riley?
Heard of Boots, but I don't know that I've heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Childish Gambino.
Of course, yes, Donald, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
D'Angelo.
Of course, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse Johnson was talking a lot about D'Angelo.
A lot, yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's got his own vibe going on.
Did you know that Jesse Johnson produced a song on the Brides of Funkstein?
I think we did know that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No, actually, I think he mentioned it.
He did.
When we interviewed him 2 weeks ago, and he did. I don't remember what the song it was.
We're probably going to drop that one. That should come out.
Okay.
So what was it? Did you get the opportunity to work directly with him, or was he just involved in the song? So how did that go?
We worked with him directly. Again, with Sue Ann Carwell and my girl Gail Modrow and Sheila Horn. Yeah, the four of us did. Yeah.
Wow.
We did a remake of Funkadelic's I Betcha. And I mean, it's layered in guitars. It's just like, whew. Yeah, we did.
Oh, God. Unbelievable.
I like it.
Well, I'm going to put up this promo once again because, again, Dawn Silva and the Brides of Funkenstein are going to be playing live October 12th. This is in San Francisco. And and you did mention that you were also potentially bringing this to Atlantic City. Did I hear that correctly?
Atlantic City, New Jersey. Yeah, I'm actually with the National R&B Society. Actually, I talked with them a few days ago. And they're looking to bring the Brides of Funkenstein to in the summer to Atlantic City, New Jersey. We haven't got the dates yet, but it's looking like it's going to happen. And I don't want to jinx myself again, but I usually don't say anything until I know that it's pretty much like 90% going to happen.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure that that's going to happen. And once we get over on the East Coast, because we haven't been there in years, we're looking to pick up a few more East Coast cities as well.
Okay.
Fantastic. I got lots of family up there, so I'd definitely be able to get to that one too.
Yeah, I have a family in Boston. I can make the trip.
Oh, absolutely. That would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah, we got lots of people. And of course, as I said, there you go. Funkatopia.com/brides or DawnSilva.com. This unbelievable book that also comes, as I said before, also comes with this poster. It's really, really incredible poster. Thank you for signing this, by the way.
You know what this book is good for, actually? You know, it's back arms, you know, if you want to.
Get the workout.
I'm serious.
Booster seats?
Yeah. This is great for your arms. It's heavy. It really is heavy. It is.
Yeah, it is. And again, it does come with the poster and also a nice bookmark as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
You need that for that book, absolutely.
And I can't say this enough. If you have not heard All My Funky Friends, you absolutely positively need to pick this up because it is a incredible album. You can go to discogs.com, DISCO, disco to go, disco, GS, discogs.com. And you can actually pick this up too. Just look for Dawn Silva and the CD that she's been holding up. And on top of that, the vinyl on some of that, you can actually still get them to this day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's just so much. Oh my gosh, Dawn.
No, let me just say this though before we let you go, because we really enjoyed this time with you, and we can't wait till you come back because I just know it's gonna happen. But one of the things we like to do is have a bumper from our guests, and it would be an honor of ours if you would do a bumper for us. You know, this is Dawn Silva, where and you're listening to Funkatopia or something like that. It would be an honor for you to have that for us.
Okay, do you want me to send it to you? You want me to do it right now?
Do it right here. It'd be great. If it might be, we can do it here, and if we know there's volume issues, we'll see if we can extract it, make it really clean. But if not, we'll talk to you offline. But I'd love to have you do it here.
Oh, I would love to do that. Hi, this is Dawn Silva, bride of all things funky. They call me the Funk Queen. Check out Funktopia.com with Mr. Christopher and Jeff Page on the one. How about that?
That sounds perfect.
Okay, I'll do a better one because I really probably would a snippet of some music,
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, you can send that one because I know you're like you're a perfectionist too, an audio perfectionist.
I know.
So I'll let you do that too. It has been an amazing night with, again, a legend, a literal legend. You have to get this book. You have to read this book. I still have not been able to finish reading it. I've tried. I've gotten halfway through in about a week. But that's only because I like sit and I just take in these pictures that are just, there's so many photos in here. It's just unreal. But it's fantastic.
Thank
and
you. Oh my gosh.
DawnSilva.com to get the book, or you can go to Funkatopia.com/brides if you can't remember that. Just get it. It's going to be amazing.
Get it now so you don't have to remember.
You probably should get it sooner than later. If you want to get an autograph, if you want to get a special number, because I number these. I think the last I checked, I was in 1,000 and something. So they're going to be gone, and I'm going to be sad because, and then I believe that they may do another distribution of it, but then you won't be getting it won't be numbered, it won't be personalized from me. But if I still have maybe a few hundred left, maybe 200-300 books left if they want to still get one, but I think in a few months they'll be gone. And what's so amazing about this book is that for the last 17-18 months, it's still been on the top of the social networks and it's still selling. I've never seen a book do that before, and I'm not bragging on it, but then that's because it's the funk. And I think that funk is powerful. It is, because it is spiritual. And that's the reason why it's sustaining, because of this type of the subject matters and what I'm talking about, and the music and the history. There is enough history in this book to probably be taught for decades. And that was a quote from an educator over at UC Berkeley. So,
Wow.
and then you got the Ricky Vincents. I got to do a shout out to Ricky Vincent as well, who embraced this early on. And again, the UC Irvine, the UC systems who have picked this book up and put it in their libraries. So it's such a pleasure and an honor.
I didn't know you were doing autograph copies. And like I said, I ordered mine just now earlier during this interview. So there's no excuses,
If
guys.
you ordered it, it's coming straight from me. So you're gonna get a personalized number. If you ordered it through DonSilva.com, if you ordered it through there,
Yep.
then
That's where I ordered it.
It's coming from me.
Sweet.
Personally from me to you.
And I got number 923, so I got in the first 1,000. But I saw somebody in here earlier that said I got number 21 or something.
Yeah, somebody else.
Yeah, those are the early. Yeah, those are the first of the first 500. Oh my goodness, yeah, those.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is.
Ladies and gentlemen, you got to give it up for the one, the only, the legendary Don Silva in the house.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was an honor. Such
It was
an honor. Thank you.
I will give you a call a little bit later on, probably tomorrow, and we'll talk because we got to put together that Women of Funk show so that you guys can get your flowers.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's get it locked in. And you have all those contacts, so it'd be easier for me to just reach out.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Don.
Thank you,
Jeff. Thank you, Mr. Christopher. Thank you so much.
We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. And that was Dawn Silva, man. Oh my gosh. It easily could have talked to her for another hour. Easily, because and just so you know, your camera has been frozen for the past
I know.
5 minutes or so. But
earlier.
A good look. You're smiling. It's like very
That's why I left it. I'm like,
it's fine. It's like a yeah, but it's and there were so many things that I wanted to talk about, but you know what I also need to do? I also need to sit down. I need to get on the phone with Dawn, and I need to sit down, and we need to log into Discogs together and fix all those erroneous things.
All the contributors that are not accurate.
Well, in Discogs, a lot of the stuff, you can actually buy. What's cool about Discogs, you can find all the background information, which is really good in the digital age right now, because a lot of these new albums come out and you just get them digitally, and you don't have any credits. You can't tell who's on it, who's singing, who's doing what, who produced it, who blah, 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 blah.
You fix it all. So
it's really, really good to be able to go in and be able to edit that stuff and read it. And in the case of Dawn, they had like a laundry list of things that she had done, but I was just like, I know that I've read like a few things that are not represented on here. And they're saying that she's on albums that she wasn't. Like they said that she was on Gap Band 4, and she's not on that.
She's not on that, right?
No, but that's the thing with Discogs, is that it's very almost Wikipedia. There's not really a website that really does a great job at providing that type of information. So it's still a phenomenal resource, but just like Wikipedia, you get these things where people are, going in and, just doing things that, anyways. But I mean, I had a list on here. Dawn was on.
I saw that.
High on You by Sly and the Family Stone. Heard You Missed Me, Well I'm Back, Sly and the Family Stone. As far as Parliament albums, she was on Parliament Live, P-Funk, Earth Tour, Funkadelic, Placebo, obviously, Games, Dames, and Guitar Things, Eddie Hazel, One Nation Under a Groove, Funkadelic, Motor Booty Affair, Parliament, Glory Hollis, Stopoid, Parliament, Trump Equalization, all of them. I mean, it was just like Fred Wesley and the Horny Horns, Funker Walk, obviously Brides of Funkenstein, Never by Texas from a Cowboy, Brides of Funkenstein. The Boots is made for Funkin' Bootsy Collins, and it has it on here, Gap Band 4, 5, 6, and 7. Through Total Experience, which she wasn't, and of course then she had her own stuff, which is great stuff. But anyways, man, it's really awesome to have her on.
It really was. And she's fun. It was great. Like the stories were just flowing, and she's a joy to work with or to listen to and talk to. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it says Doris says, get the authorized funk reference by Dana Bedrosian. I think I have it back here.
I have that too. Yeah, I do.
Actually, right here.
Yep.
He's right. You got to pick up that.
I
And
have that one.
Actually, we actually were pretty integral in helping him get this published, by the way, Norris.
That's right.
As he was looking for a publisher for this book and was hitting roadblock after roadblock. And one of the good friends of the show, Dwayne Tudall, actually has the Prince books, which you see up
He's
here.
here tonight. I think he was I saw him in the chat.
And he actually has the Prince books. And the problem was, and it was released on Rowan and Littlefield. I think it's Rowan and Littlefield. I think.
Rowan.
And they had such phenomenal success with Dwayne Tudall's books, and what Danny was doing was like the exact same thing, but with Parliament Funkadelic.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the reason why we said maybe you should reach out to Rowan and Littlefield. And he was like, "All right, I'll do that," and he did. And they took it and they snatched it up. And matter of fact, he even thanks us, thanks Funkatopia in the book. For making that connection. So it was really, really cool to get that shout out, but yeah, helping Danny get that. But yeah. And also just a couple things. If you did miss the broadcast, don't worry. As soon as we're done, it will post onto Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. So you'll still be able to watch it from the very, very beginning and still be okay. And a lot of people said that her audio was a little low when she first started. When she leaned in towards the end, it was obviously a lot better. But the good thing about StreamYard is that they actually now, one of the things that they started doing over the past 6 months or so is that they started creating individual files for each person that is in the broadcast, so that we can pull just her audio track and be able to make adjustments to it to make it sound better and layer it over. And so I will do that. I will make sure that gets done, so that if you guys had little problems hearing her, we'll fix it. We'll do it all. It's all great. But yeah, it is, man, what a fantastic show. We did have a couple news briefs, things that I wanted to go ahead and drop before we call it a night. The first thing, obviously, that I want to address is something that a lot of people have been talking about, and that I've been talking about, obviously, as well. Is the radio station. I'm not going to go into the long diatribe. I did that a couple of weeks ago regarding the radio station, so I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but here's what I'll tell you. For those that know, Funkatopia has 2 radio stations. We have the Funked Up radio station, which is a 24/7 funk radio station. It's free. All you got to do is you can go to the Apple Store, or you can go to the Google Play Store and looked up Funkatopia, or you can look up Funked Up, Funkedup, and you can download the app. It is a 24/7 funk radio station. It has Parliament Funkadelic. It has Brides of Funkenstein. It also has Prince. It also has Earth, Wind and Fire and Ohio Players. And it's funk.
It's funk.
And it's ASCAP licensed. We also have another radio station called Uptown Radio, which is 24/7 Prince. Also, well, it's not just Prince, but it's also The Time, and it's Sheila E. It's the Purple Family type of thing, and it's 24/7 Prince, also ASCAP licensed. However, we were really digging deep in some of his, some of the lesser known tracks and some of the stuff that he put out there and then took down and put up in various ways and forms and NPG Music Club and all kinds of stuff and concert clips and whatnot. And all of those have been removed off of Uptown Radio, because we are creating a third radio station just for Patreon supporters. But because of the fact that the 2 radio stations that you hear now are free, the only reason why they're free is because of the Patreon supporters who actually support Funkatopia at patreon.com/Funkatopia. That's patreon.com/Funkatopia. The only reason why those stations even exist is because of the Patreon supporters. If it was not for them, the radio station would not exist. It just simply wouldn't, because of the fact they're ASCAP licensed. What happens is that every single month, ASCAP will tap into the server, download what's been played, look at how many people have listened, how many, do the minutes, all the stuff, So you guys get 2 great radio stations, and it's awesome. However, it's kind of some of these bigger broadcasts that we do, like Prince-giving and Prince-mas, where we play all of Prince's music in chronological order, or in alphabetical order, or whatever it is, and all those concert things and all that stuff. It costs money, and it gets a lot of people coming, but nothing changes on the support side of things. And so that's the reason why we made this move. And now there's a 3rd radio station called Uptown Radio Plus. Uptown Radio Plus will only be available to Patreon supporters. So if you want to get access to Uptown Radio Plus, it's not ready yet. It will be done probably in the middle of September. I just talked with Michael. We were talking about the app and what we're going to have to do. Probably going to do a full public launch for, on October 1st. But if you want to become a member, literally to join, it's only $5 a month. That's it.
I mean,
That's
come
it.
on.
I mean, you're already getting 2 free radio stations, but if you want to get access to this other radio station, it's going to be cool. So not only do you get all that stuff that I've already stripped away from Uptown Radio, like the concerts and other rehearsals and all that stuff. All that stuff is moved over to Uptown Radio Plus already. It's already exists. But we haven't integrated into the app yet, but it's coming. But you'll also get the capability to actually request songs. And Prince-giving and Prince-mas are actually going to be moving to Uptown Radio Plus. It will not be on the regular radio station anymore. And it's just a bunch of different things. And you'll be able to listen to this show live on Uptown Radio Plus also. You're not going to get that on the regular one. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's coming. We're just kind of working through all the details because we have to integrate it with Patreon, and it's just that there's some things that kind of go with that, but this is coming. So if you want to get Uptown Radio Plus, it will be, it's coming. And just letting you know, I probably talked a lot more than I wanted to on that.
That's perfectly fine. Make sure everybody knows what's going on and they're ready. And to answer your question, Rochelle, yes, it is going to be replayed, and you'll see it on Facebook and on YouTube. And we also, where is it? It's Spotify and all the stations. It'll be out tomorrow, so you'll be able to hear it as a podcast as well. So yeah, all this is going to be replayed. You'll get to hear it again.
Yeah. So if you missed if you wanted to watch any of the video, it's fine. This is pretty much an audio show, but so tomorrow you will be able to listen to this show, the replay of the show, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Odyssey, on all the big podcasting platforms that will be out there. But you can watch the video, like as soon as this show is over, you can just refresh and it will be there. You'll be able to watch everything that we did tonight. A couple events that I want to tell you about. Obviously, we've already talked about the event that's happening with the Brides of Funkenstein, and that's going to be happening in October. We got some other stuff that's also coming up a little bit sooner than that, including one that is happening on the 17th, which I'm going to share this. It's the Time Masterclass, which is going to be at the Sweetwater headquarters, and that is in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So this is a really unusual location. We have fans everywhere across the world. And normally stuff is like in Atlanta or up in New York or in Minneapolis or in California, or like some of the strategic places. This is the first time I think I've ever announced an event that's happening in Fort Wayne, Indiana, or in Indiana in general. But it is the Time Band Masterclass. Jelly Bean Johnson is going to be there. Monty Moore is going to be there. Tori is going to be there. Tori Ruffin. And Ricky Freeze is going to be there too. So these guys are all going to be doing a masterclass in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Tickets are $100, but if you're anywhere near this, it's going to be awesome, because if you play or you're a musician, it's great, because they're going to teach you learning by listening, how to gel with the band, also recording effectively, and how to craft hit-worthy parts, and just really kind of teaching you how to construct songs. And it's coming from the guys that have been there, seen it, done it. And I mean, yeah, it's members of the Time doing a masterclass in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is pretty friggin' awesome.
That's way awesome.
It's friggin' way awesome. If you're going to be in Atlanta, there's actually a couple really, really cool events that are going to be happening in Atlanta. The first one I did not know about. I don't know if any of you guys know. Oh, if you want to go to the masterclass from the Time, go to funkatopia.com/masterclass. That's funkatopia.com/masterclass, and it will take you over to it will take you over to that site. I tried to create 301 redirects for all that stuff, but yeah, that one is funkatopia.com/masterclass. I did not know this. For some reason, I missed it, and I don't know how I missed it because I'm a huge fan of this person. But Judith Hill dropped a brand new album months ago, apparently in April.
You did know about it. We talked about it.
I don't remember talking about this out. I remember talking about the one before it, but I don't remember talking about this one. The new album is called Letters from a Black Widow. And obviously this is something that has literally destroyed her career. Well, not destroyed her career, but really had a massive effect on her career. And she even talks about it here. Judith Hill's last album, Letters from a Black Widow, is a powerful reflection on her tumultuous journey. The term Black Widow was coined by tabloids after the overdose deaths of both of her collaborators, Michael Jackson and Prince. A lot of people don't know this about Judith Hill. Some people do, some people don't. But Judith was actually going to be part of the This Is It tour of Michael Jackson's that he was putting together for London, because he was trying to do more shows than Prince at the O2 Arena. And Prince had done 21 nights. And one of the things that people had said was that Michael was trying to do more, like trying to do 30, because Prince had actually broke a record doing that. I think there could have been plenty of other artists that could have done that, like Elton John or somebody, especially in that area, or Paul McCartney or whoever. But anyways, she was on that tour, the This Is It tour. And then Michael Jackson overdosed. And Judith Hill was also working with Prince and was on the plane when he overdosed, leaving from the Atlanta show, the 2 Atlanta shows here in Atlanta. And she was on the plane then. So they coined her the Black Widow, which obviously was devastating for her because she had nothing to do with it. It's not like she was the drug dealer or anything.
Right.
Anyways, it said it nearly derailed her career despite her winning a Grammy for 20 Feet from Stardom, which was a film that had Lynn Mabry, Judith Hill, had like a bunch of people. So anyways, she is back on tour. So check your local listings and wherever you're at. She's going to be in Atlanta on September 5th. I can do that show, but the problem is that I'm leaving September 6th. And so I imagine that night is going to be crazy for me, getting stuff together, since I will be out of town for 2 weeks. But go see this. And here's the other thing too, that album, if you have not heard the album Letters from a Black Widow, go check it out, because it is really friggin' good. I mean, like really, really good. I was actually surprised that it was as good as it is, because I love, the name of the album is called Letters from a Black Widow. I love her. And if you see her live, it's unfriggin' real. I knew that she could sing. We obviously knew that because I think she got pushed out there into the ether via The Voice, which is obviously where Prince saw her and then kind of latched on and did a bunch. But not only does she have a phenomenal voice, but she is a very skilled guitarist and a very skilled pianist and keyboardist. And I'm not just talking about somebody who just knows chords and, she is just like one of these flow people that just closes her eyes and just kind of gets into she is an unbelievable multi-instrumentalist. And you can tell by the song structures. I mean, you can always tell what artists are like that just by the way the songs are structured, the way they're kind of the chord progressions and the changes and stuff. She is unreal. And that album is fantastic. Go see Judith. She's amazing. Anyways, so I I hate that for her, but I also didn't. You said we talked about this album, and maybe we did. Maybe that was an Etch-a-Sketch moment for me.
Yeah,
but
it was.
Yeah, but anyways, there's a new album that just dropped at the end of April, so it hasn't been out that long. It's been out for a few months though, and it's been pretty phenomenal. Also, just as a shout out, another thing to mention, if you have not heard the last album from Pete Rock and Common that came out, It is what's the name of that album? I'm trying to remember the name, but it is really, really good. If you are a fan of old school hip hop, but that's kind of layered over that old funk soul, that's like the entire album. It is like really, really good. They had there's one song that I talked about before called Dreamin'. But you need to check that out too. That's what we should do next week as a soundstage. We should just do a soundstage and just play clips, because we do not have we don't have anything planned specifically for Tuesday, because there's a couple people that I've been talking to that I would love to have on the show next week, but it's just seeming it's improbable when you get to that week mark. So we might do a soundstage, because we got to do a show next week, because after that we'll be off for 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm sorry. I see that Lisa's birthday is on 9/17. Yes, I know. I'm sorry. But anyways. Yeah, I would love to have Ken's Let's Get Judith in the future. I would love to have Judith.
Absolutely.
I begged her to come on the show. Matter of fact, the last time I have not heard from Carmen either, Joni. I would love to hear Carmen Electra. Yeah. But the last time Judith was in town, I not only talked to her stage manager, her manager, and gave her my card and said, please have her call me. I would love to have her on the show. Please have her call me. I'd love to have her on the show. But then after the show, the second time I saw her, I actually got in front of Judith and gave her the card and pleaded my case and said, Judith, would love to have you on the show. Still nothing. So I just think that she's really apprehensive of doing interviews just because of everything that kind of spiraled out from Black Widow. I think she's still...
I think she's being wise and cautious. I think she's being wise and cautious and picking her spots. And at some point she'll vet us, they'll research, they'll dig, and then she'll go, oh, they're cool. Yeah, I can do this.
I think that's what happened with Jill Jones too. I think Jill Jones felt a certain way, but then when she came on the show, she was like, oh, okay. I get what you guys are doing now. Okay, go.
That's what happens with anyone who has reservations, and when they finally pay attention, they go, oh, all right, I can do this.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
Also appearing in Atlanta also is Fred Wesley and the New JBs. He's doing a tour again, and he's going to be at City Winery also. So if you're a big James Brown fan, Fred Wesley and the New JBs they're doing a tour, and they're going to be here in Atlanta. I'll be here for that. So I'll definitely probably go to that. I would love to go to the Judith Hill one, but I think that night before we leave is going to be insane with the packing and the planning, and I can't imagine coming in. Coming home close to midnight the night before we're supposed to. It's just. I just don't see that playing out well.
Yeah.
And also shout out. I know that Andre Simone watches the show occasionally because he told me, and we just had the anniversary of the album AC not too long ago, so I got an opportunity to start talking to him again, and kind of wanted to make sure that I gave him a little bit of a shout out, because what is happening is I can't remember the date of this, September 13th, which is not too far away, a few weeks away. Friday, September 13th, they are going to be renaming a road in Minneapolis to Bernadette Anderson Way after his mother. For those of you guys know all the things that went down with Bernadette taking Prince in and pretty much just fostered him. Prince lived with Andre. That's how they kind of connected, and they've started a band together, and Andre played with Prince for a while. And, so there's a long history there. And Bernadette not only did that, but she has been a integral and integral part and a pillar of the community in Minneapolis for sure. And so they are renaming the road Bernadette Anderson Way, and it's a commemorative street naming ceremony and a block party that's going to be happening on the 1200 block of Russell Avenue North. So if you're up in that Minneapolis area, you should definitely go, because there will also be, as you might expect, an appearance by Andre Simone. So doing a
You know.
performance there as well. So of course, yes, this is Mama. So
I mean,
I will not be there. I would love to be there. That would be fantastic. I would love
it
to
would be.
I will be very far away, in a place that I can't get away. That all being said, if you are in the Minneapolis area, go, because this is going to be fun. You get to hang out with. It's going to be great.
Yeah, be there. Be a part of it.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'm sorry that we were off last week, but it's just one of these things where it's a constant moving piece, and it's good news. It's good news. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. Hopefully we'll have some good news and we'll be able to have a cool show next week. There will be a show next week. There has to be a show next week. So I'm not doing 3 weeks off. That's just insane.
There has to.
So it's either you're going to have a guest that will be announced within the next few days, or we will do a soundstage where we're going to talk about new music that's out and kind of tell you about some things that are happening. Because we've only done one episode of soundstage.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do it quite a bit, but
it was a good episode too.
Oh, it was really well. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I hope you guys had a great time. Thank you once again to the one and only Dawn Silva. You can go to dawnsilva.com. You can also go to funkatopia.com/brides, but I realize that dawnsilva.com is pretty simple. And I think it's a lot less letters than Funkatopia.
A whole lot.
It's a whole lot less letters. So if you just go to dawnsilva.com, you can not only get the book, that if you order the book through there, it will be autographed, because I got mine. And what's really, really cool is that she signed it. She signs it. She numbers it. She actually, not only on that first page, but then she also put another nice little note in there to me. And on top of that, it also, as I said, it also comes with a bookmark, which I don't know what happened to the bookmark.
Yeah, the ticket stub. I love it. That's awesome. That's a good bookmark.
Poster, and she also autographed the poster for me too. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but you need to get them because the books are running out, and it's awesome. It's pretty fantastic. Yeah. And of course, if you're in the California area, there's going to be the show.
Go to the show.
John Silva, the Brides of Funkenstein, are going to be there. Mo Boone Cooper is going to be there. Blackbird's going to be. It's going to be, man. Come on. It's going to be a fantastic show. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Man, this is a long show. We did almost coming up on 3 hours here. 3 hours seems to go fast. It's a long show. Really into the topicality of it. It doesn't seem like it's 3 hours. It's not like I'm going, man, it's been 3 hours.
No, it only seems like 3 hours to anyone from the outside who just goes, oh, there's a show. Oh, it's 3 hours. But no, once you start it, it's gone. That time, you don't even realize it.
And I'm starting to we're starting to put together clips. You guys have started seeing the little clips, the little 2-minute clips. You're starting to see some of that. So I started working with a program that kind of breaks things up, and it doesn't really do a fantastic job, but it does a pretty good job. And I can
it takes some work, but we'll find some key things, and we'll just start putting them out. So, yeah.
So, anyways, a lot of people want us to get offline so they can hit replay and start it from the beginning, because it won't do that. End it. So we're gone. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Mr. Christopher. This is Jeff Page.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Wake me when you're done.
And we will see you next week, because
this is a business, and you ain't too far gone to see that yet.
We'll see you next week. We will see you next week, unless something horrible happens. We will see you next week. Oh, what? You know what? I do actually have a little bit of an outro. So enjoy. This is from the 1975 American Music Awards. And what they made Sly Stone do was ridiculous. And let's just enjoy this and call it. Good night, everyone.
He's got it. And here is Sly Stone.
Still to the Washington Jackson, Kentucky, with an old-fashioned country harmony. But give me some beer drinking music, and let me hear that 1 and 2 and 3. So swing good old country music. Let me hear that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and check that.
There's a lot of rockin' country, country something pop and soul, rockin' pop and soul and country, soul and pop and rock and roll. It's American music, all American music, real American music on the American Music Awards. It's American music, all American music, real American music on the American Music Awards.
God save us all. Good night, everyone.